What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8HH Chapter 212 The Dead Souls of the Gods at Dusk. It was less than half an hour before Yèyuè and his daughter's experimental battle. Puff. The 7th school district, and even the central area of the entire school city. A building without windows. Just like the name, there are no doors or windows, even the connecting air outlets cannot see the moment of a building. As more than a dozen people stepped in, the door behind the room closed instantly. Please follow me. Although not as exaggerated as the bee-eater, but it also has good capital, and the upper body is only wrapped in bandages, and a school uniform jacket is worn on the shoulders. The girl who claims to be Kibyao Danshi cleans the double ponytails behind her head. To the many members of the general board of directors who came. According to her self-introduction just now, she is the guide of this building. The new LV5. The expression on the surface is not 307, shocked by Danshi, but in the heart, he has been quietly looking at the supreme rulers of the school city. According to the boss, all members of the general council were suddenly summoned to discuss the birth of the new LV5. But the bidding Danshi thinks it is unlikely, although the birth of the new LV5 superpowers is a major event. But it is not enough for the 12 general council members to gather at most. With the ability to move coordinates of Danshi, more than a dozen members of the general board of directors were transferred to a special room one after another. This one in the cabin does not know whether it is a male or a female. The competition is hanging upside down. At the next moment when the highest members were led to this point, Kibyao Danshi disappeared from the room. She knows very well that she is not qualified to know what will be negotiated by the general board of directors. The moment the 12 directors sat down, a voice echoed in their director's mind. The dead soul of the gods of Twilight, there is a little problem. The founder and supreme commander of Academy City. Advertisement Aleister Crowley said this. Whether it is a hawk or a dove, his complexion changes suddenly. The Revenant of the Gods at Dusk. No one knows, this is another title of the General Council for Mikoto Yèyuè besides Super Electromagnetic Cannon. Human beings can move from chaos to order in just over 100 years. It is also indispensable for the Academy City to build the two orders of science and magic. Aleister's eyebrows moved slightly, but he still didn't open his eyes. The legend took place in the Battle of Twilight of the Gods, that was ruled by gods and demons longer during the time of the magician. In that battle, more than 99% of the gods, demons, angels, and saints in the world died in battle, and this mysterious alien soul kill. Aleister closed his eyes and thought back. However, after killing that person, what the gods and demons did not expect was that the world fell into chaos in an instant, almost on the verge of destruction. After Aleister said this, many projection screens appeared in the room. The picture above shows what the world looks like during the chaos period. Exaggerated tornadoes raged across a barren land. The never-ending tsunami continued to swallow the narrow corners of the landing site. Sickness, which symbolizes disease and plague, erodes the human body. In this period of time that lasted for thousands of years, or even longer, humans can only survive in despair. The true god possesses a unique, divine nature, Poseidon of the sea. Helios of the sun, Hades of the underworld. Once these true gods with divine nature die, the consequences caused by them must be reflected in the real world. And Yèyuè Guāng, who possesses the divinity of the main god, if he dies, the world will lose its dominant power and fall into chaos. But when Yèyuè Guāng walked out of the gate of the underworld, he was reborn. The world regained its dominant power, gained order from the chaos, and gradually restored its calm. Of course, it is impossible for Academy City to know this. This state continued until around 1900, when I joined the Magic Society. Advertisement Aleister seemed to recall some bad memory, and the brows on the face that hung upside down in the nutrition cabin were slightly wrinkled. As Aleister's voice fell, the picture on the projection screen changed. 0. All turned into Yuzuki Mikoto's photos, from the time she was 6 years old to go to elementary school in Gakuen City. And now she is 14 years old as a member of Tokiwadai Middle School. There are everything. However, the most obvious one among the many projection screens right now. It was played on the playground of Tokubandai Junior High School half an hour ago. In a contest between Yèyuè Guāng and Yèyuè Mikoto, the father and daughter are shooting super electromagnetic guns. When Aleister slowed down the picture tens of thousands of times, the 12 directors could clearly see it. Yèyuè Mikoto's body emits a moment of holy light that is shorter than a moment. In a 1,000th or even 1,000th of an instant, it forms the outline of a sword. That is, one of the top directors, Thomas Prozina Bagu, stood up from his seat with a bang. The other directors are not much better, one or two eyeballs almost fall out of their eye sockets. After building the Academy City, I have never given up on the research of the Battle of Dark Gods, that took place in ancient times. After countless hours, I have explored Railgun and ancient records. That person's abilities are very similar. The power of gods and demons will change with the times and places. For example, Kamijo Tuma's Fantasy Killer and Railgun 5.0 is also one of the successors that inherited the power of God. And it has the most dangerous ability. Aleister expressed his thoughts about Mikoto Yuzuki. At the same time, the screen of the projection screen in the room was revolved, and many murals of ancient relics were marked. They are all murals about the contents of the ancient magician records, War of the Gods in the Evening. Above, there are a large number of pictures of a man holding a big sword confronting countless angels, demon gods, and magicians. And the big sword in the man's hand is exactly the same as the sword-shaped holy light overflowing from Makoto's body in the video just now. Chapter 213 Become a Janitor. How about imprisoning Yèyuè Makoto, the image of a gray-haired old man, as the largest hawk in the General Council and the manager of the Military Industry Department? Chowan punched the conference table with a fist and shouted. It's too dangerous to let Yèyuè Makoto move freely. Are you going to imprison a 14-year-old girl? Isn't it too much? Hasn't she been stable during the 7 years she has been in Academy City? The Tide Bank with the Hawks has always been a deadly rival, the same old lady who is over 60s and full of Madara white hair. The top director of the Dove negotiating department Pro-Ship Zhang frowned and retorted. It's so naive, what if we change the world back to the way it was 100 years ago? The Tide Bank scolded unmovably, for teenagers like Yèyuè Makoto and Bee-Eater FK. More than 100 years ago, the world was still in an era of chaos and riots, which was far too far away. They don't understand what kind of hell on earth it is. In just over 100 years, 2 industrial revolutions have been carried out one after another, and the scientific and technological construction of Academy City will be added. Only finally got the world back on track. But in fact, if it were not more than 100 years ago, the chaotic world would have no cause for it. Suddenly returned to normal from chaos. Even if it is a school city, there is nothing that can be done. For Yèyuè Makoto in the era of order, bee-eaters pray for them. It just regards such things as long-dead history and even legends. However, many of the directors present were elders over 100 years old. Having experienced that era personally, they were extremely afraid of the existence of Makoto Yèyuè. In her body, lodged with the sacred object used by the man who caused the War of the Gods in the Evening. This is far more terrifying than Kamijo Tuma's fantasy killer. As early as Yèyuè Moon, Makoto joined the Academy City 7 years ago and demonstrated the ability of LV5. The General Council listed her as a key observation target. And a year ago, she released the power of the tip of the Olympus Excalibur for the first time. Alistair was discovered by using the stagnation loop to observe every move of the entire Academy City in his eyes. The upper-level quarrel about how to deal with Makoto Yèyuè never stopped. And today, Yèyuè Makoto released this power for the second time. Advertisement: The panic of the General Council has risen to a new level. By the way, who is the one who fought against Yèyuè Makoto? There are still faint signs of suppressing her. One of the top directors, another old man Beijijiman's sentence, drew everyone's attention back to the video. Just now, everyone's attention was attracted by the power of the holy sword released from Makoto's body. Actually ignored the existence of such a powerful person. Can suppress the second place among only 7 superpowers in Academy City. Depending on the appearance, it is not one side. Where did this person come from? The father of the gods of the Twilight Souls. Alistair's voice echoed in the minds of the directors. Father? Good guy. Co-authoring this family are all freaks? I haven't experienced the brain development of Academy City. Can you achieve this level of strength? Chowan even doubted. Isn't it a spy sent by a hostile force in Academy City? It doesn't matter, now the key is Yèyuè Makoto, as expected, it's better to lock it up, right? No. Do you know how dangerous it is to do this? Yèyuè Guāng, the controversial being of the General Council, is not yet known. Now, he just wants to spend this life relaxed, but if someone comes to trouble yourself, he would never show mercy. In the office of the chairman of Tokiwadai Junior High School. The wardens? Leaning on the sofa, Yèyuè Guāng showed an expression of interest after listening to the proposal of the chairman of Tokiwadai sitting in the main seat. Ah, isn't Yèyuè-kun where I don't live? It just so happened that the house supervisor of our Tokipontai dormitory had resigned some time ago. You can live there, and you'll be able to surrender your job in an instant. The old woman who was the chairman of Tokiwadai Middle School barely gave a smile that was uglier than crying. It seems that Yèyuè Guāng's behavior of begging, prison, her for a long time in order to serve as a teacher in this girl's school has left a lot of psychological shadow in her heart. The dormitory, replaced by Yèyuè Guāng's previous life, is the dormitory ant. Advertisement. That's not bad, I accept it, thanks. Yèyuè Guāng smiled heartily, waved his hand to say goodbye, and disappeared into the office. Call. After Yèyuè Guāng left, the chairman of Tokiwadai heaved a sigh of relief. The cold sweat behind her had completely soaked her women's suit. After a while, her spirit recovered a little, picked up the phone, and dialed back and said, "Yes, it has already been arranged, so that's it?" Of course, she did not really let a man be the dormitory in the female dormitory just because the former dormitory resigned and pleased Yèyuè Guāng. To be able to recruit a man to Tokiwadai Girls' School for the first time, being a teacher is already shocking enough. However, the upper-level orders had to be obeyed. The influence of Academy City is far stronger than in the original work. The world can restore order from endless chaos in just 100 years. The role played by the Academy City is far greater than the world imagined. As dusk approached, Tokiwadai also ushered in 307 school hours. Really, father is so cruel, don't you know that he is merciful to his daughter? In the swimming pool where the water was emptied, Shirai Kuroko took the mop and cleaned the pool with Makoto Yèyuè. At the same time, Sui Nyen complained. The playground was destroyed, Makoto's head teacher still put the account on her. She was punished to clean the swimming pool, and Shirai Kuroko, Makoto's #1 fan of the brain, naturally came to help. And Yèyuè Makoto stared blankly, staring at the palms of her raised hands. At the last moment of the previous confrontation with Oduo-san, what happened to the indescribable force overflowing from his body? My sister, are you listening? Seeing that Makoto hadn't paid attention to herself, Shirai Kuroko couldn't help but increase her voice. But once again, I saw Yèyuè Makoto did not respond, and a wisp of hirazi extended from the corner of his mouth, and a strange red cloud appeared on his cheek. With both hands squirming towards Makoto's chariot, a pervert smile appeared in his mouth. Since that's the case, hey, Hyuga is not welcome. Bang. The moment when Shirai Kuroko's irregularly squirming pig's hoofs were less than 5 centimeters away from the target. Yèyuè Makoto's delicate feet seemed to have self-awareness. He lifted his foot and kicked the opponent out. Chapter 214 Kill them all. Hyuga, you fellow, it's completely broken. Facing Shirai Kuroko's pervert behavior, Makoto's body has been fully conditioned. There is no need for the brain to engrave the meaning, the body will instinctively make countermeasures. Shirai Kuroko, who was kicked flying, was completely unmoved, as if a pile of mud had slipped from the pool wall, then climbed on the ground and looked up, full of loss. Really, elder sister is wearing this kind of tasteless safety library. You should be more conscious of being the trump card of Takiwadai. Go to hell. Along with Makoto's shameful scream, the overflowing electric current surged to Shirai Kuroko's body. Ah, Sister Sama. Baijin Kuroko kept screaming something wrong. The flushed Makoto showed an expression of embarrassment that he wanted to kill, and was about to further increase the power output. Familiar sounds come into the ears. What are you doing? What? He shuddered and turned back, looking at each other with exactly the same eyes. Makoto was stuck in place. Oh Duo-sang, that me. Well, it's embarrassing. I tried my best to prevent this guy Hyuga from appearing in front of Oduo-sang. Not only did we meet now, but also in such an embarrassing situation. Ooh. Father. Baijin Hyuga, who was still convulsed by electricity a second, was resurrected with full blood, teleported to Yèyuè Guāng, and knelt down on one knee. My son-in-law, oh no, little girl's sunspot, I will pay it back later. Taste. Before Baijin Hyuga finished speaking, a crisp sound of twisting his neck rang. In the next second, the sunspots were like unrecyclable garbage, their heads rotated 180 degrees, and were thrown back into the swimming pool behind. Makoto's friends are surprisingly interesting, Yèyuè Guāng said cheerfully. Makoto lowered her head and felt she wanted to die. It was like this on the first day of the reunion of father and daughter. She felt that her campus life would be gloomy in the future. Ah, Baijin classmate, also, there are also Yèyuè senpai and Yèyuè teacher and carrot. The sound of footsteps came from the entrance of the swimming pool at the rear again, and the father and daughter looked back. They are two young girls with white shirts and dead water inside, short brown hair and long dark blue hair. Anasama, call Kisama, I will introduce to you, Hyuga, who had just been broken his neck, resurrected again in the speechless eyes of Yeyu's father and daughter, and teleported to the two girls, smiling and introducing. These two are my classmates, Wane Swanbao and Paofu Wanbin. Advertisement. The small faces of the two girls full of collagen were slightly red and bowed to them, but the object of blushing was not Yèyuè Guāng, who was the opposite S**X, but Yèyuè Makoto. Please enlighten me, Teacher Yèyuè, Sister Yèyuè, I'm Wane Yanbao. I am Paofu Wanbin, a member of the swimming club. Seeing that the blushing of the two lovely girls facing her was not as good as facing her daughter, Master Yèyuè couldn't help but touch his chin. This plot is not right. Is it that the masculine charm of yourself has decreased after getting married? Yèyuè Guāng turned his head and looked at the locker room window, and saw his face by the reflection of the glass window. Still so handsome. My name is Makoto Senpai, so I'm in the first grade. Yèyuè Guāng silently glanced at the A+ and B levels of the dead reservoir of the two girls. He glanced at Ping A under the white shirt of his daughter. Spray, it's really a sad story. Look, what are you looking at? Perceiving his father's gaze, Makoto hurriedly used both hands to protect the environment in front of Yu Shang, and shouted with a red face. This is totally different from your mother. Yèyuè Guāng shrugged. Go to hell. Makoto flew with an angry blow, safety pants. Faced with the tomboy character of his daughter, Yèyuè Guāng has completely given up. At least avoid the possibility of being lifted by the B*********** D outside. Huh? Dormitory. After a while, I learned that my father was going to be the Takiwadai dormitory. Not only Makoto, Shirai Kuroko, Wanuchi Kinbo, and Pabumanbin who were present had their eyes wide open. Just recruiting a male teacher in a girls' school is surprising enough. Let him be the housekeeper in the female dormitory? The chairman is afraid that he is not crazy. Eduo-sang, have you threatened the chairman? Reminiscing about his father's past behavior, Makoto's eyes appeared as a thin slit, and he questioned deeply suspiciously. How does this kid live? This old woman begged me to be it. Yèyuè Guāng grabbed Makoto's cheeks on both sides and kept pulling and pulling. Ming, it hurts, let go, advertisement. Makoto repeatedly slapped Yèyuè Guāng's trotter, tears streaming from the seam of his eyes. But I haven't heard that our old maiden housekeeper has resigned. Yesterday she gave a severe lesson to the students who returned late. Baijing Haitsi questioned with her highly recognizable, sharp but not unpleasant voice. Old maiden. Hearing this word, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help but arouse a little interest. Mentioning this topic, Haitsi suddenly got excited and complained endlessly. That's right. A woman who has been virgin for 29 years and has no man at all past the expiration date will only vent her resentment as an old woman on us, my poor and pitiful flowers, father. Eduo-sang, what do you want to do? I want to tell mom. Makoto, whose cheeks on both sides were pinched by Yèyuè Guāng, was a little red, suddenly a sense of crisis, pinched her little hand on Yèyuè Guāng's waist, threatened, and then turned his head and yelled at Shirai Kuroko. And Haitsi, don't call my dad with that kind of name. Joke, dad, I'm very dedicated. Yèyuè Guāng held her daughter's little hand. If Masaka Mireu was here, she would definitely scold Yèyuè Guāng for shame. Single-minded. Just you? By the way, Dusan, will you leave your mother alone in Britain? Thinking of the other side of the ocean, the same unreliable mother, after Makoto reported her lip, she was embarrassed. Okay, Zhao said. You are not afraid, there are, do bad people approach your mother? Well, with Makoto Tsunere's character, she still can't figure it out. But Yèyuè Guāng didn't have this taboo, and asked directly. Are you worried that a third party will come in while I'm not by your mother's side? For the little girl whose average age is only 13, 14 years old. The scale of this topic was a little bigger, and the faces of the girls such as Pao's sister and other girls were flushed. Oh, Shirai Kuroko is not counted in it. Don't worry, I have arranged it before I came, so that everyone who is close to your mother. Halfway through the conversation, Yèyuè Guāng paused for half a second, then said. Persuaded. The other three girls didn't hear anything wrong. But Yèyuè Makoto, who knows his father's urination very well, screamed inwardly. You mean to kill all the people close to your mother, right? Chapter 215 The Woman's Sight. That, at this moment, Wane Janbao, who has a soft and cute personality, raised his hand and said softly. Our dormitory left some time ago, will teacher Yèyuè be our side? Is it the dormitory in the Garden of Schools? Yèyuè Makoto said in astonishment. Pao Fu Wanbin also nodded. Yes, indeed, just last week, the housekeeper teacher in charge of our dormitory was said to have resigned because of marriage. Now the entire dormitory is temporarily managed by the Queen. Queen? Hearing this nickname, a black line appeared between Makoto's eyebrows again. That damn it's Da Yu Hung's sister. What do you mean? Can't I live with Makoto? Yèyuè Guāng raised his eyebrows. Eduo-sang, what you said is too easy for people to misunderstand. Makoto pursed his mouth and stomped angrily. Pao Fu Wanbin explained with a shy face. Teacher Yuzuki, Takiwade's student dormitory is divided into two buildings. Makoto Senpai and Shirai-san live in the one in the academy. The other dormitory where Pao and I live is in the other dormitory, garden. There is that star-eyed territory, Makoto whispered. Mention of that woman made me feel very angry, especially the guy rubbing on Odosan's arm this morning. But 307 is evil, it's just a pair of useless fats, what's so good about it? I can't live with Makoto, I'll change to that old woman. Yèyuè Guāng suddenly felt unhappy that he had been deceived, and when he was about to disappear into the same place, he asked the council elder woman to talk to him. My father wants to live with my sister. Baijing Haitsi's face changed in shock, and he thought about it in his heart. Then Haitsi and Sister Sama's beautiful cohabitation life will end here. You know, as a freshman, she became a roommate in order to be with Yuzuki Makoto. I don't know how many methods have been used for soft grinding and hard foaming. Only then did Yèyuè Makoto's original second-year roommate agree to exchange with him. If Yèyuè Guāng became the dormitory of his own dormitory, wouldn't it be that he would kick himself out of the door with one kick? Advertisement occupy the love nest of yourself and your sister? Haitsi will never allow this to happen. The inner alarm sounded loudly, and Baijing Haitsi hurriedly pulled the sleeve of Yèyuè Guāng who was almost leaving, and barely pulled out a smile that was uglier than crying. Father, my father, Haitsi thinks the garden of school is more suitable for you. Baijing Haitsi called himself, father, in such a tone, and even Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help but get goosebumps with the cold. Haitsi, what the hell are you making? Makoto also became alert, according to her understanding of Shirai Kuroko. Every time this guy shows such an expression, it is absolutely fine. However, Shirai Kuroko, who is the #1 Makoto control on the earth, did not answer Makoto's question for an unprecedented time. Hurriedly pulled Yèyuè Guāng to the other side of the pool, showing a wicked smile like a courtier. My father, the girls in the garden of school are of higher level. After a brief silence, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help but laugh out loud. You are really good enough, Haitsi. After experiencing 3 lives and 3 lives, Yèyuè Guāng, who can't count how long he has lived together, can't guess the thoughts of Baijing Haitsi, a 13-year-old girl. Seeing that Yèyuè Guāng is hard to seduce, Baijing Kuroko can only change his plan, and rushes back to Yèyuè Makoto's side, tearfully saying. Sister Sama, do you really want to live with your father? As to Kiwade's trump card, you are only 14 years old, and you are shamelessly starting to live with a man? What cohabitation? We are father and daughter. Makoto ran into a runaway, and electricity surged again, and it fell on Shirami Ikuroko. Ah! Shirai Kuroko lying on the ground became more and more excited. However, Shirai Kuroko's words also made Makoto hesitate. At first, she felt that it was better to live with Oduo-sang than to pervert Hyuga. But I am now 14 years old, Baffa, and both psychologically and physically are very different from when I was a child. It is really inconvenient to live with Oduo-sang, and so shy. Thinking of this, Makoto turned around and pointed to Yèyuè Guāng. Oh, Oduo-sang, you should go to the garden of the school. Yeah, did Makoto hate his dad when he grew up? It's so sad. Yèyuè Guāng pretended to have an expression of distress. No, only, it's just that I grew up, you still live with me, it's very strange, and Tokiwadai is not far from the school garden, I will visit you often. Advertisement. Makoto suddenly became anxious. Spray, still soft-hearted as usual, you can easily be fooled by bad men like this. Yèyuè Guāng expressed concern. Seeing Yèyuè Guāng's face change in Sichuan opera, Makoto angrily gave a set of meow punches. Damn it, lie to me again. In the end, Yèyuè Guāng still failed to fulfill his wish to live with his daughter. Led by two adorable girls, Swanbao and Paofu Wanbin in Wane, they came to the dormitory of the school building not far away from Tokubandai Middle School. However, Makoto didn't know that she would regret this decision in the future. Teacher Yezuki, this is another dormitory in Tokiwadai, ruled by the queen. Wane Tubao put her two small hands together in front of her skirt and politely introduced Yèyuè Guāng. Queen? Yèyuè Guāng walked to this luxurious mansion, which was said to be a dormitory, but more like a castle, under the curious eyes of many little girls, and asked the two little girls rhetorically. Another LV5 from Tokiwadai Middle School, Psychological Control, Bee-Eater FK Lord, alias, Queen. Bubble-floating Wanbin interface responded. The star-eyed face appeared in Yèyuè Guāng's mind. Teacher Yèyuè, let's say goodbye first. Coming to the door of the dormitory, Wane Jubao and Paofu Wanbin bowed to Yèyuè Guāng to say goodbye. Yèyuè Guāng waved their hands to be free. Although this kind of cute little Nizi is obedient, she still likes Makoto. Sure enough, the meat that fell from my body was different. The water that fell? Swimming pool. The last time I took Mi Ling and Makoto to the beach for a swim seemed to be 8 years ago. Time flies. Go to the door of one of the rooms and see the nameplate on the top of the doorframe. Yèyuè Guāng pushed in. Just after pushing the door open, the emotional shadow that came into view also heard the door opening from behind and turned to look. The blue eyes and the star eyes looked at each other. But within a second, Yèyuè Guāng moved his gaze slightly downward. The F-class tank that is difficult to wrap even in Dead Reservoir Water Chapter 216 Queen's Wrath. As a sports idiot, the bee-eater praying would never participate in sports unless she gained weight. Of course, Tokiwadai's physical education teacher will not embarrass one of the only two LV5s in her school. Even if there are idiots who don't know good or bad. She can also easily control the other party with her own ability. However, she can't escape tomorrow's swimming class. Yèyuè Guāng, as the teaching object of the physical education teacher, is not just the class where Mei Chin is located. It's the entire Tokiwadai, naturally including the class where she was bee-eater. If you change to normal, the bee-eater exercise will directly control the opponent with your own psychological control ability. But today, in the battle between the father and daughter of the devil, she had flicked the controller quietly, only to find out. Not only the Billy girl of Dammit, but even the man also has the electromagnetic barrier that resists his own ability. If Dammit exposes me to be a duck in front of so many people, as Queen of Tokiwadai, I will be disgraced. I have to learn it tonight anyway. The bee-eater immersed in the swimming pool flopped with his hands. The beautiful body, which is completely different from the junior high school body, moves in the water, but it is more awkward and ugly than the dog's planing. And less than 2 minutes after the dog was planing, he was holding on to the upper and lower steel ladder of the swimming pool next to him to catch his breath. She is a veritable sports idiot, Dolly. The panting bee-eater murmured 2 words in FKG's mouth. That was the only friend she recognized. Although she has the same face as that girl, the difference in personality is very different. The artificial room is said to have collected the DNA of countless saints in the age of ancient magicians, War of the Gods at Twilight, which aims to cultivate geniuses or the most capable people through artificial methods. And their highest masterpiece is psychological control, analysis of bee-eater. In order to avoid the chase of these people, he joined Tokubandai Middle School. She later became LV5 and returned to the artificial room, but found that her only best friend had died. And recently, the bee-eater Kauchi discovered the remains of the artificial house, including the mysterious girl who can appear in different places 3 times in a day. But in an instant, the bee-eater FK remembered Dolly, who was a clone of Discharge Girl. Could it be that thinking of this, bee-eater FK Kai secretly gritted his teeth? Wow! Walked out of the poolside from the stairs and muttered to himself. Advertisement, Dolly. I will avenge you. Boom. Just as the bee-eater had just got out of the water, the door was pushed suddenly behind him. The bee-eater had a heartbeat, but he didn't lose his composure. He just thought it was a student of Tokiwadai. Anyway, my dog was not seen by the other party just now, and there is nothing to worry about. If it doesn't help, I just use my ability to erase the other party's memory. It's so late, I didn't expect there is another one besides me. Just as the bee-eater was making a queen gesture, he twirled his head and turned the hair tied into a ponytail and turned around. However, when I saw the person who came, The original star's eyes were filled with pride and sorrow, and they were replaced by astonishment and shyness. Yeah. Just as the bee-eater exercised, Kai suddenly reacted and retreated. Step on the water stains on the shore with little feet and pour them directly into the swimming pool. Woo, help, help, help. The bee-eater prayed for trivial things, and swallowed several mouthfuls of water in a panic. Yèyuè Guāng turned his head and looked at the sign with 1.5 meters on the wall of the swimming pool, and couldn't help but wonder. Isn't this girl a fool? But I was really shocked to see her, and did not say much, stepping on the surface of the swimming pool with a flat foot. One hand lifted the thumping bee-eater, the princess held her in her arms. Ming, I thought I was going to die. The queen of Takiwadai was crying. You're an idiot. Looking at the bee-eaters with water or tears still in the corner of her eyes, Yèyuè Guāng raised her head and motioned for her to look at the sign with 1.5 meters written on the side of the swimming pool. The bee-eater FK Kai, whose eyes were still glistening with tears, suddenly stared at the boss. With a height of 1.68 meters, the perfect goddess, she has the desire to die at this moment. Blame you. You pervert. Just enter the girls' dormitory, it will scare people. -0 seeking flowers. 0 The bee-eater prayed for the golden beans to fall from his eye sockets again, and pointed to Yèyuè Guāng, shouting furiously. Yèyuè Guāng is too lazy to explain, because when a woman is angry, you can't explain it anymore. At this time he lived the experience gained from 3 lives and 3 lives. Advertisement. After the bee-eaters got tired of swearing, Yèyuè Guāng finally found a chance to speak. I am the housekeeper of this dormitory now. Why is it not big or small? Be careful that I will give you a small stove. Queen. Are you okay? Do not wait for the bee-eater to make any response to Yèyuè Guāng's words. A large number of Takiwadai girls in school uniforms or pajamas poured into the indoor swimming pool. As introduced by Wane Jubao, more than 80% of the students in this dormitory are members of the bee-eater gate valve. 0. When the bee-eater Cauchi's deputy Fan Fenrunzi and many members of the bee-eater gatekeeper saw Yèyuè Guāng standing on the water of the swimming pool, the princess was holding them both as queens. 1 and 2 all froze in place, unable to speak a word. In the dormitory, the extremely rare non-bee-eater faction Wane Jubao and Paofu Wanbin arrived. Seeing this scene, I was also silly in the same place. Yi, teacher Yèyuè. Unexpectedly quick after a long time, Wane Swanbao said this sentence in an extremely embarrassing tone. Fanfang Runzi also said with a constipated expression. Female, queen, is this inappropriate? Not to mention the teacher-student relationship, he is still the super electromagnetic cannon. What? Bee-eater FK Kai suddenly realized how warm he was being held by Princess Yèyuè Guāng. But the remote control was not around, so he could only flop between Yèyuè Guāng's hands like a fried cat. You, let me go. Let me go, real? Yèyuè Guāng narrowed his eyes and asked with a smile. The bee-eater fisted on Yèyuè Guāng's shoulder and said angrily, hurry up. Okay. Puff, Yèyuè Guāng gave it away with both hands, and Queen Takiwadai fell straight into the pool. Everyone finally discovered that Yèyuè Guāng had stepped on the water. Chapter 217 Mikoto. For Mom this time, the bee-eater was not stupid enough to wander around in a pond that is only 1.5 meters deep. But as the queen of Takiwadai's face, this is a shame. After hurriedly standing up from the swimming pool, he glared at Yèyuè Guāng viciously. But he didn't find the other party to settle the account immediately, but hurried to the tea table by the swimming pool. Take out something that looks like a TV remote control from the valuable women's bag. After a button sound of beep at the door, whether it is Fanfang Runzi and others who are bee-eater subordinates, or Wane Suobao, who is not a bee-eater faction, soaks in Wanbin. Both eyes turned into star eyes with the same style as the bee-eater. But compared to the playful eyes of the bee-eaters, which seemed to be talking, their pupils looked hollow, as if they were manipulated dolls. They froze in place. True, 310, is a dream to return to the previous life. Seeing such a scene, Yèyuè Guāng instantly recalled the group of people with pink eyes whose brain circuits were different from ordinary people. Humph. Seeing Yèyuè Guāng, as expected, he was not controlled by his own ability. The bee-eater snorted and began to tamper with the memory. This dark history must not be left behind. However, when the bee-eater Cauchi began to revise the memories of Wane Jubao and Paofu Wanbin, his face was full of black lines. The two of them were holding their mobile phones and emailed what they had just witnessed to Mikoto Yezuki. There is no recall function for emails. Yèyuè Guāng came up and found this scene, rubbing his temples with a headache. That girl will annoy herself tomorrow, right? By the way, your ability must be activated through this remote control? Really tasteless. Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help feeling bored when he saw the bee-eater exercise praying for memory tampering and he kept pressing the remote control. Simply superfluous. That is to say, as long as the remote control is destroyed, this star eye will be a useless person? He also noticed that the opponent's dead reservoir water completely couldn't wrap up the beautiful figure. Forgive Yèyuè Guāng can't help but think of some bad things, sins and sins. Hearing that Yèyuè Guāng even disliked his own ability, the star-eyed bee-eater glared at the other side. This is too annoying for father and daughter, advertisement. Well, out of habit. Yèyuè Guāng's judgment on the strength of the capable person is all about fighting power and destructive power. Compared with Mikoto's character, the ability of bee-eaters is more suitable for some shady aspects. It is much higher than Mikoto in terms of practicality and commerciality. This is also one of the reasons why the two are rivals. It's like a coin with two sides, it's not the enemy. Don't be late for class tomorrow. Even LV5 cannot use the troublesome ability of memory tampering with so many people at once. Yèyuè Guāng also didn't bother to continue entangled with the star eyes, yawned and then turned and left. It seems that the days to come will not be boring anymore. Busy to erase this memory of the people in the entire dormitory, the busy bee-eater prayed to Yèyuè Guāng, pulling his eyelids and sticking out his tongue and making a face. I thought that one day I would collect this account back. Damn it. This guy who doesn't know his self-respect caused such a big trouble on the first day. In another dormitory on the Tokiwadai campus, Mikoto's two small hands squeezed the phone with the Gutai phone case in his palm, and his body flashed with beep beep. Pervert Kuroko on the side didn't dare to go up when he saw his sister's appearance like this. At this moment, Mikoto's mobile phone screen is showing the email that Wanai Zhenyao has sent to her. Said that she saw teacher Yi Yu holding the queen in the indoor swimming pool of the dormitory. Swimming pool. Mikoto, who has been single with her mother and fetus until now, instantly thinks of a bad picture. Apart from anger, CC Guāng used his body to go in and out when he was aware of it. Haitsi, I'll go out, and the dormitory will leave it to you to deal with. Feeling that the top of her mother's head might turn green, Mikoto hurriedly opened the window and was about to jump down. Check the bed. Before Mikoto jumped out, a roar of head-on lion sounded from outside the door accompanied by heavy footsteps. Mikoto and Kuroko in the room shivered at the same time. Mikoto also had to retract the calf Shansen who had just stretched out the window. Is there anything more terrifying than the dormitory in this world? Advertisement. It's too late, I can only wait for tomorrow to find Oduo-sang on the line. 0. Mikoto has already started to regret it. If he knew it, Odu-san would come here. Not only can you get rid of the pervert sunspots, but you can also avoid this terrible housekeeper. The most important thing is, can prevent the top of his mother's head from turning green. The next day, Tokiwadai poolside. Dozens of Tokiwadai second-year students gathered here. Naturally, it also includes two LVs, Yèyuè Mikoto and Bee-Eater. Swimwear with different styles naturally does not exist, all dark blue dead reservoir water. But even so, it is enough to show the beautiful bodies of these young and beautiful girls. The little girls now have enough nutrition. Yèyuè Guāng looked around, not to mention the Bee-Eaters, this heavy armored chariot, only C class, he saw several, the average level is A+, even B level. Suddenly, Yèyuè Guāng discovered the extremely rare level A in this sea of flowers. Move your gaze 3 inches up, it's Mikoto, that's all right. A whole Eduo-sang, what did the look in your eyes mean? Mikoto exploded his hair instantly and kicked Yèyuè Guāng. It's rare to not wear safety pants. Bee-Eater FK Kai looked at the slapstick father and daughter, his eyes flashed unnaturally, and then his beautiful face turned to another 5.0. Even without Yèyuè Guāng's order, all the second-year girls in the audience stood in two camps. The Yèyuè gate headed by Mikoto, and the Bee-Eater gate headed by the Bee-Eater. But it's not quite right to say, Yèyu's clan, because Mikoto didn't form any factions at all. It's just that the non-Bee-Eaters all shrank to her as if they were seeking to rely on. I have already talked about the basic explanation of the two-color hockey, but it is too early for you to practice that. Under the curious eyes of the girls, Yèyuè Guāng stepped on the broken surface water and explained to the girls. First, strengthen your basic physical fitness. After speaking, Yèyuè Guāng raised his thumb and pointed to the training list written on the whiteboard on the wall behind. Chapter 218 Feel tamed. The dead reservoir water girls by the swimming pool turned their heads to look at the content written on the whiteboard on the back wall. I can't breathe for a moment. Teacher Yi Yu, is this too exaggerated? The character is coquettish but not arrogant, with the C-class tank that Mikoto envied, and the second-year student who lives in the schoolyard managed by Yèyuè Guāng after marriage. Photon used a folding fan to block his slightly opened mouth. Shouted incredulously. This amount of training, yeah, it's really true for us. Other girls also showed embarrassment. Mikoto can be said to be the only one with a calm expression among the girls present. Isn't it about the same as my 5-year-old training amount? Don't want to become stronger? Yèyuè Guāng asked rhetorically, completely blocking the retort that these eldest ladies were about to blurt back into the throat. Teacher Yèyuè, I am not very used to sports, can I let others go? Please, hey. The Bee-Eater exercised animation with a scissor hand gestured with his right hand and placed it horizontally in front of the eye socket of his right eye. As he glared at Yèyuè Guāng, his uvula was spit out slightly. Make an iconic move. 10. The ability of psychological control is useless for Yèyuè Guāng, she can only use this most primitive method. On the other side, Mikoto's eyes widened to the boss. Really, so shameless, I'm afraid that this kind of action will kill her and I can't do it. In the next second, Mikoto filled his army with a fierce and resentful aura and glared at his father. The staring eyes of the boss seemed to say, I will kill you if I dare to promise. She was so scared that other girls around her hurriedly stepped back to avoid being affected. I will focus on taking care of you. Yèyuè Guāng smiled and patted the Bee-Eater's head. After 2 hours of physical education, except for Mikoto, none of the other girls are still standing. 1 or 2 were limp by the pool, Sweat stains mixed with pool water stains, and many girls only felt that they would faint in the next second. I feel that the amount of exercise I have done in the past 10 years has never been better than this one. Advertisement among them, the bee-eater is the most embarrassing one. She collapsed on Yèyuè Guāng's arm without the style of a queen, muttering in her mouth. Yes, I'm going to die. Yèyuè Guāng was speechless, and the physique of bee-eaters was not as good as elementary school students. Let her practice, seeing, hearing, and lust to escape, which might be the limit. Pop. After putting down the bee-eater with a broken face, Yèyuè Guāng clapped his hands and said, "Very well, according to this amount of training, it won't take long before you should be able to initialize the new master's abilities. Come on, continue practicing tomorrow." Yèyuè Guāng also never thought that all of these little girls could practice to the extent that they could realize hockey. As long as they can attach hockey to the surface of the body like the female men of Amazon Lily Island in One Piece, it is enough. Having traveled in this world for so many years, Yèyuè Guāng just didn't want to know but already understood. The use of superpowers in this world is extremely dependent on brain calculations. On the contrary, it does not pay much attention to the development of physical abilities. Even a person with LV4 grade ability, once the brain is affected, it will be like a waste. Thinking of this, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help but glance at the bee-eater who collapsed like mud under the parasol. This Nizi is the most typical example. Just make these little girls a preliminary master 2-color hockey. Even if they don't rely on the computing power of the brain, they can easily kill LV3. In addition, the worst of them all have the level of LV3. The average combat power reaches LV4 easily. At this moment, Yèyuè Guāng suddenly had the illusion that he was creating a daughter country. When the girls who had just breathed a sigh of relief heard the words, "Continue tomorrow," they were even more mournful for a while. Many girls almost blurred out the 3 words, "I don't want." But when I saw Yèyuè Guāng standing there, like a deity's body, they didn't know why, and there was no more complaint. Oh ha ha ha, this level is not worth mentioning to my Tokubantai's post-marriage Photon. After the marriage, Photon's legs kept trembling and gave out a trembling laugh. Advertisement. Yèyuè Guāng smiled slightly. This girl named Photon after marriage, among all people, should be considered second only to Makoto in physique. Others change their clothes and go back, bee-eaters pray to stay and continue to practice. Yèyuè Guāng shouted. What? The bee-eater gazes so brightly that the stars almost fall to the ground, instantly feeling targeted. Staring at Yèyuè Guāng with cannibal eyes, he asked mercilessly. Why against me? Because only you did not meet the training requirements, sports idiots. Yèyuè Guāng hit the bee-eater's forehead with a hand knife. Looking at the entire academy city, dare to do such a thing to the queen. I'm afraid there is only this one. Wu Ming Ming. The bee-eater prayed that his cheeks bulged like a frog, and at the same time he dared not refute him with indignation. 310 could only stare at the starry eyes incompetently, hoping to kill this B***** D with his eyes. Teacher Yèyuè, several members of the bee-eater faction dragged their weary bodies forward, wanting the bee-eaters to speak. However, when Yèyuè Guāng squinted at them with the light from the corner of his eyes, they all hurriedly retracted in fright. It caused the bee-eater to scold inwardly, but she did not fail to understand. As early as the first meeting with this man, she felt the inconsistency of oppression on him. This makes bee-eater Fauci gradually have a special feeling of being tamed by the other party in the process of getting along with Yèyuè Guāng later. Okay. Everyone should go back and change clothes, and continue to practice bee-eater exercises. Yèyuè Guāng gave the order twice. The girls barely got up from the ground one by one, and the intense muscle soreness made them walk as funny as crabs. Fortunately, Takiwadai has closed management, no outsiders can see it. Eduo-san, what happened to you in this Star Eye last night? Everyone else walked almost the same way, but only by themselves, Yèyuè Guāng and the bee-eater. Makoto grasped the timing and hummed with one hand on his hips, pointing at Yèyuè Guāng and asked. Chapter 219 Bee-Eater Prey, 0 points private to Kiwadai Junior High School. When the young girls in light brown school uniforms walked into the school gate, they could clearly see today's student schedule displayed on the electronic screen next to the teaching building. On the screen, lines of subtitles slowly crossed, writing such as 9th Power System, 11 o'clock, the First Classroom Remote Operation System. 11 o'clock Lecture Hall Perception, 11 o'clock, the First Classroom. Mental Perception. Classroom 37 Mental Foresight, Classroom 26. The content of this series. Obviously, today is the day for the ability level test. Rumble, accompanied by the skyrocketing thunder, a large number of splashing waves rushed to an altitude of more than 100 meters at the same time. A few seconds later, a large amount of water stains poured down, forming a short rainstorm covering half of Takiwadai Middle School. Why? What's going on? This shock force. Some freshmen who had just transferred this year were a little careless. They fell to the ground and looked in the direction of the swimming pool from the shockwave. They couldn't help but exclaimed. HMPH. It was Takiwadai's trump card that issued the attack just now. Without the pool water as a buffer, the machine would not be able to detect its destructive power normally. Shirai Kuroko, who just completed the ability level test, had her arms on her hips, and her triumphant appearance seemed to be boasting, explaining to some transfer students. My elder sister. Just as Shirai Kuroko, who is Makoto's #1 fan of the brain, is planning to promote the greatness of his sister, the most important point. After the marriage, Photon suddenly came up from the other side, opened the folding fan to cover the small mouth, squinted his eyes and said with the grandmother's grandiose tone. "Ah, Shirai-san, have you forgotten that there is another additional test this time?" Although he was extremely upset by being interrupted by the Photon after the marriage, he still reacted suddenly, and suddenly recalled that the test was also assessed by his father. Hyuga will definitely work hard to get his father's approval. Takiwadai poolside. Even if the pool water is buffered, the electromagnetic cannon fired with all its strength still smashed the protective wall in front and rushed straight into the sky. Record. The muzzle velocity of the shell about 4,027 meters per second. Burst ability 16 rounds, 1 minute range distance about 7.65 kW/m. The Takiwadai instructor who controls the test equipment on the other side announced. Comprehensive level 55.5, superpower, advertisement. Makoto, who changed into a white vest sportswear and crimson sports shorts, picked up the game coins in his hand, felt the slightest discomfort in his body and secretly thought. What's the matter? I always feel that my body feels a little different from usual, although it hasn't weakened. That's amazing. Senior sister Yèyuè, waiting on the side, Suan Bao and Pao Fu Wan Bin held each other in their hands, admiring their faces. Compared to the last level test, it has become stronger. Maybe you can already try to challenge the #1 position. Pao Fu Wan Bin also said excitedly. Makoto waved his hand and motioned for the two to calm down. It's not that exaggerated, it's still LV5, illustration. To outsiders, Makoto's words are really Versailles. But since she was 6 years old, she has remained unchanged at the level of LV5, and she is indeed qualified to say this. I have finished the test, so I will leave first, classmates from Wane, classmates from Paofu. Makoto waved his hand and was about to leave. By the way, what happened to Dosen? Student Yèyuè, the students who have finished the test will have a DNA test here. Mionbian, one of the instructors, suddenly shouted. Beside her, there is a grinder for DNA extraction. Makoto raised her eyebrows slightly, and asked puzzledly, DNA testing, why did you add this item suddenly? After all, the development of Academy City's ability is mainly through the stimulation of the brain and hypnosis, but also the cell changes of the capable person. Mionbian explained briefly, but in fact, she just explained it according to the chairman's statement. Makoto is not a grandmaster for capacity development. After all, her ability did not originate from the development of the Academy City, but from her descent. In the end, there was no unnecessary suspicion and DNA testing was performed. Another teacher in the Takiwadai teaching building. After the marriage, Photon stretched out her back hand, her fingertips still supporting the folding fan that never left her hand. After taking a deep breath, Photon's eyes flashed after the marriage, and at the same time a trace of steam that was hard to see with the naked eye appeared on the surface of the folding fan. With a fierce wave of his slender arm, it was extremely powerful on the doll that tested its destructive power. Boom! The puppet was smashed into pieces with a loud beep. This is something that was never done with the attack power of the Photon after marriage. That is armed color. How about, Teacher Yèyuè? After the marriage, Photon turned around, jumping and screaming excitedly at Yèyuè Guāng. Advertisement: the private car that was the same age as Makoto but had a B+ or even a C class shook for a while. Yèyuè Guāng, who held her cheek with one hand and saw this scene in her eyes, smiled slightly, and patted Photon's head after marriage to signal her to calm down. Then he scored. Photon after marriage arm color, 70 points, preliminary master, seeing and hearing color, 60 points, barely master. Comprehensive evaluation. LV4, highly capable, 2-color hockey taught these girls for 3 months. For the initial master 2-color hockey, or one of them, even if it is Takiwadai's 47 highly capable students, only less than 1/3 of the students, including Shirai Kuroko, and Photon after marriage, have reached the standard. Ming, the married Photon who was patted on the head by Yèyuè Guāng, was as cute as a kitten. He even took the initiative to rub Yèyuè Guāng's palm. It was like Shirai Kuroko's face to Makoto. Baijin Kuroko's inner alarm bell on the other side of the classroom rang out loudly. Damn, it's wedding Photon. Do you want to compete with Hyuga for his father's approval? Next, B-Eater F********* G pray. When Yèyuè Guāng looked down and saw the iconic star eyes on the student roster, his face changed slightly. Good. Come on, Teacher Yèyuè, Puffy. The bee-eaters who walked into the classroom prayed for the night in the moonlight to sell cute scissors hands. In these 3 months, because the amount of bee-eater exercises was not up to the standard each time, almost Tenten would be stayed by Yèyuè Guāng to try again. Yèyuè Guāng feels that the time spent with this Nizi is almost faster than that of Makoto. At the same time, I felt that Nizi disrespect herself more and more. Tied to the eyes. Yèyuè Guāng threw the white towel beside his hand to the bee-eater. Let the other party wrap her star eyes. Illustration. Test your knowledge first. A flash of lightning flashed in Yèyuè Guāng's hand, which turned into needles that were so subtle that they were imperceptible to the naked eye and shot them towards the bee-eater. Half a second later, the queen's miserable scream resounded through the entire teaching building. 5 minutes later, Yèyuè Guāng announced with a disgusting expression. The bee-eater fucks prey, armed color, 0 points. Seeing and hearing color, 0 points. Chapter 220 New Tearing Duo. Yèyuè Makoto, Bee-Eater F*** G. Actually got 2 duck eggs among the nearly 200 students in Tekiwadai. The Bee-Eater is also the first one in the world. And it's still LV5. This shame is definitely lost to Grandma's house. But there was no way. It was only 3 months, and it was too late to transform her hopeless sports idiot physique. Let alone practice 2-color hockey. Ha ha ha. Shang, the queen's residence in Tekiwadai will actually get 2 poached eggs. Ha ha. Laugh me to death. At this moment, there was a burst of bold laughter outside the door. Everyone turned their heads and saw that Makoto was standing at the door with his arms around his abdomen, clinging to his belly and laughing unscrupulously. The Bee-Eater who tore the white towel from his eyes was full of blushing cheeks. Just when she was frustrated and unsure of what to refute. Suddenly I found that Makoto's body was trembling with a smile, but there was no fluctuation in Yu Shang's breast. The Bee-Eater who burst into self-confidence in an instant, prayed and teased the golden waterfall hair lightly behind his head, mockingly said. Ah, I just got 2 poached eggs this time. It can't compare to classmate Yèyuè who runs around with 2 poached eggs all day long. What did you say? May 310 Chin instantly stopped her smile, and dangerous currents flowed in and out between the chestnut hair. The Bee-Eater embraced her hands, and even more vividly highlighted her pair of outdated fruits, and sighed with a sigh on her face. Hey, I actually envy you classmates too. After all, if the person you like likes giant children, you still have room to grow, but if the person I like poor children, I can't do anything about it. Puff. Yèyuè Guāng almost spit out, although he was immune to women's tearing behavior in his previous life. But I didn't expect 2 14-year-old girls to tear up so well. What's so good about? It's just 2 masses of fat that get in the way. Makoto was destroyed in an instant, rushed to grab the chariot of the Bee-Eater with both hands, ravaged it, and shouted angrily. And the Bee-Eater was so frightened by Makoto's actions, feeling the strange feeling that kept coming up. The queen was also blushing with a pretty face and said softly. What are you doing? This kind of thing, I simply. However, the more Makoto talked to the back, the more she felt the amazing smoothness of Baffa coming from her hands. The tone became lower and lower, and finally fell to his knees weakly. Advertisement a pair of dim eyes and an expression of suspicion of life saw that he had just grabbed his Bee-Eater's hands, and his throat was choked up and he was about to cry. And the Bee-Eater FK Kai hugged herself tightly, fearing that Makoto would come back and yelled. Please don't just squeeze people there in despair casually, okay? Smell, click, click. At this moment, the second daughter suddenly heard the sound of shutters. Turning his head to look, I saw that Yèyuè Guāng had taken out his mobile phone and took a picture without playing. Awesome, nowadays little girl really knows how to play, and so on. Eduo-sang. No filming. Half a second later, the roar of Makoto and the Bee-Eater Frochi sounded at the same time. I feel that both of them can form a new duo. Where's the new strawberry cake? Can I eat it? After school, on the way back to the dormitory of the school building from Tekiwadai School. The Bee-Eater Kauchi, who led a member of the Bee-Eater faction, held a new gourmet magazine and asked everyone expectantly. Queen, your sugar intake this month has exceeded the limit. Until next month you must strictly control your dessert intake. Fanfang Runzi responded with a smile, Ming. The Bee-Eater puffed up annoyedly. Being laughed at by that discharging girl, I wanted to comfort myself with desserts. Not happy, but there is no way, who called her fat-prone physique. Just as the Bee-Eater Kauchi continued to lead the Bee-Eater faction to return to the dormitory. Suddenly found that on the corner of the street across the road, walking through a familiar shadow. Discharge girl? The face she hated the most appeared in the Bee-Eater's mind. But not right. That girl Billy stayed with teacher Yèyuè until she took someone out of Tokubandai Academy. She can't be here. Moreover, the clothes are different. In an instant, Bee-Eater Kauchi suddenly recalled. In the depths of his own memory, he cherished the figure that was most cherished and least willing to recall. Dolly. Advertisement. The Bee-Eater murmured 2 words in a low voice. Queen, what's wrong with you? Perceiving the peculiar expression of the Bee-Eater, Fanfang Runzi and others rushed up to inquire. You go back to the dormitory first, I have other business. The Bee-Eater spoke again, speaking more indifferently than before. How can this work? If something happens to the queen, we can work together. Beep. Before the members of the Bee-Eater faction had finished speaking, the Bee-Eater had already pressed the button of the remote control. Go back. The Bee-Eater said 2 words coldly again. The subordinates left like puppets, and after 3 months of devil training, many Bee-Eaters have grown up in their physique. Then he hurriedly chased after the figure that flashed by just now. After running for nearly half a mile in a row. In a dark alley, the Bee-Eater bowed tiredly, spitting out his breath constantly. Although it's not that far, it was already a miracle for her who had to lie down after just running 2 steps before. Call me, I remember she entered here. Why is she missing? After breathing for a long while, the Bee-Eater exercised she finally recovered, and the back of his hand wearing white silk gloves stroked the sweat stains on his side face and looked forward. The road ahead has been blocked by the wall. The person has disappeared. What happened? Could she not fly? Do you have anything to do with Yèyuè? Yèyuè asked in doubt. It's not like Tsunere of Discharge Girl, but arrogant and even with a little bit of police voice coming from above. The bee-eater trembles with Shi Jiao. The star's eyes are full of shock and he looks up. Under a pair of gray tight-fitting combat uniforms, his slender feet were stepping on the wall, and the whole body was at a 90 angle to the wall. The face I hate most, but at the same time the most cherished face, is reflected in the eyes of the bee-eater. Huh? Didn't you hear it? Are you sick? Or is it because Yèyuè's ability has affected your hearing? Yèyuè said he couldn't understand it. Chapter 221. Most like Yèyuè Guāng's Mikoto using electromagnetic force to stand on the wall. This is something that an electric shocker of at least LV4 can do. The bee-eater raised his eyes and looked at it, and at this moment, he could see the face of the other party thoroughly. As expected, she has the same face as that pesky girl and the friend who is most cherished in the depths of her memory. But both face and body are more mature. The silver-gray tight-fitting combat suit on her body also shows this very well. Especially as a female characteristic, although not as exaggerated as myself. However, in the ranks of minors, the level of nearly D is definitely a female of the world. It's like a high school student's version of Yèyuè Mikoto. How did it happen? Can't you hear what Yèyuè said? Stepping on the wall with a magnetic force, the high school student version of Yèyuè Mikoto saw two consecutive questioning of the opponent but no answer. Boringly jumped off the wall, shrugged, and walked over the shoulders of the bee-eater, preparing to leave. And many more, however, as soon as the opponent passed by his shoulder, bee-eater Fauci suddenly turned his head, his tone of horror even carried a heart-piercing cry. Who are you? Who are you? The high school version of Yèyuè Mikoto takes a break. After being silent for about 2 seconds, he turned his back to the bee-eater and asked. Start to confirm the password, ZXC 741, ASD 852, QWE 963. What? Hearing a series of mysterious codes suddenly reported, the bee-eater tilted his head in subconscious confusion. It doesn't seem to be the person involved in the plan. Yèyuè doesn't need to explain anything to you. After leaving the last sentence, Mikoto, a high school who claimed to be Yèyuè, strode out of the alley. And many more. The bee-eater Kauchi hurriedly took out the remote control from his bag, pointed at the back of the opponent's head and shouted. Tell me everything you know. Beep. The moment when the bee-eater presses the center button of the remote control. Pila, an electric arc flashed from the back of high school Mikoto's head, like a defensive wall, isolating the controllability of psychological control. How come? The pupils of the stars in the bee-eater's eyes shrank sharply. The electromagnetic barrier can isolate one's own psychological control ability. Advertisement, but that is not something that everyone with the electric shock system ability can do. Hidden deep in her memory, she couldn't do it with only LV3 electric shock ability. Only among those with LV5 superpowers, the electric shock, which is also among the best in strength, enables Yèyuè Mikoto to do it. And now, there is a second one. Spray, are you capable of mind control? It's really annoying. High school Mikoto suddenly turned around, with the same fierceness in his eyes as Yèyuè Guāng. To put it bluntly, compared to Mikoto, who is full of justice. This, Mikoto, looks more like Yèyuè Guāng raised. But compared with the kind of hockey who has a good temper, this Mikoto is too immature. It's like an urchin who has an unfortunate childhood and has developed a bad personality since childhood. At the moment of turning around, high school version Mikoto waved his hand to release a ray-like electric current, which directly attacked the remote control in the hand of the bee-eater. Compared with Mikoto's electric light, it appears darker and darker purple. At the last moment, the bee-eater moved a step to the left. Boom. The wall behind was blown apart and splashed. Illustration: the flying stone chips hit the back of the bee-eater, making the other party think about it, knocking to the ground on one knee. These 3 months of hardship really haven't been eaten in vain. Regardless of the pain in the knee, bee-eater tried to stand up quickly, thinking at the same time. It is impossible to avoid the trick just now if you are the self you were 3 months ago. The training of that pesky devil teacher seems to be genuine. What? At this moment, high school Mikoto seemed to think of something, staring at the Takiwadai school uniform on the bee-eater Kauji, and his eyes faintly shouted. That uniform, yes, it's the same on the information. The facial features on the face showed a look of humiliation that Mikoto's deity would never show. It just so happens that I also want to ask you something. As long as you obey, you will not hurt you. Yèyuè issued such a warning. With a rather strange oral addiction, high school Mikoto made a threatening gesture and squeezed a dangerous little fist. -0 seeking flowers. 0, you are not her. I can be sure of that. Advertisement. Looking at the other's jealous expression in his eyes, the bee-eater is absolutely sure that this, Yèyuè Mikoto, and the one he cherished most in the past are definitely not the same person. That gentle child would not show such an expression. However, the other party definitely knows a lot of things that he does not know. You must not miss this opportunity. The bee-eater, who touched the wall with his left hand, barely stood up again and pressed another button on the remote control. Beep. The moment the button is sounded, on both sides of the narrow alley, people of different ages and genders were suddenly standing. Their only common feature is that they all show the same star pupils as the bee-eaters. 0, hey, high school Mikoto dragged a long note with interest, turned his head to observe these people around him, and quickly analyzed. If you don't have the ability to fight, do you control all the capable people around you as your own weapon? After that, High School Makoto once again turned his attention to the bee-eater analysis. It really fits the style of a person with mental control ability. It's a pity that I have to say that even if I'm called despicable. The bee-eater used the index finger of his bare hand to touch his chin like a cute one, and smiled slightly, because I have something I want to know anyway. I won't say you are mean, no matter what method you use, as long as you can kill the other party, it's okay. Pippa, as the voice fell, the dark purple electric current was like a protective barrier, and it began to diffuse out of the body of High School Makoto. The expression is even more obvious at this moment, and the number of people has no effect on me at all. The violent dark purple thunder current suddenly spread, like an uncontrolled beast attacking the controlled capable people around. LV5, faced with the thunder and lightning that swallowed up the ability of their own control, and constantly eroded themselves. While the bee-eaters stepped back again and again, they were completely affirmed. The opponent is a real LV5 superpower, but how could this be? Is it really possible to do it artificially? And Chapter 222 Family Tradition Super Electromagnetic Gun. Queen Takiwade's delicate body twitched slightly and fell to the ground in the dark alley. Those with abilities under her control were quickly defeated by the high school version of Makoto, who had the same face as Yèyuè Makoto, but was not the deity. Within 1 mile, except for this high school version of Makoto, which has a body completely different from the deity. There is no second person standing. Even if the bee-eater exercises, all abilities within 1 mile will be controlled. Can't beat the opponent either. It's hard to imagine, even LV5. Faced with such a crowded wheel battle, it should be exhausted. It's just electromagnetic waves, temporarily restraining your movements. High School Makoto squatted down with his legs and looked down at the skin surface. Electricity flashed through the bee-eater from time to time. Immediately, a jade finger on the little hand, 310, pointed to her forehead, half-empty eyes threatened. I don't have the ability to be as convenient as you, so if you want to suffer less, just answer Yèyuè's question obediently, Yèyuè said so threateningly. Suffocating the numbness rushing up and down all over the body, the bee-eater raised his head with great difficulty, and smiled reluctantly. This, so lightly put the word threat on the lips. You really are not the same as that girl and Dolly, it's not the same. As soon as this remark came out, I didn't know how to touch the reverse scale of the High School Makoto in front of me. The eyes that were originally fierce suddenly became extremely cruel, and the old man who twisted the collar of the bee-eater and pulled her collar, staged a world-famous painting and roared. Don't compare me with other guys, you star eyes. While roaring, the purple lightning thunder that had just converged once again roared and overflowed from his body like a mad beast. Now answer my question, you won. It was the last moment when High School Makoto was about to say the second half. In terms of the little girl tearing, it's too much, right? Coming from the entrance of the alley, slightly lazy, but with a familiar voice that can't be refuted, it came into the ears of the two women in the dark alley. Teacher Yèyuè, the bee-eater, who was paralyzed and convulsed, said 4 words with difficulty. The next second he closed his eyes and fainted. Advertisement. Compared with the numbness of the body, the burden on the brain caused by so many capable people in one breath, is the main reason for a coma. The High School Makoto, who was twisting the collar of the bee-eater and praying, was completely stunned when he saw Yèyuè Guāng. Before spitting out the third word between the teeth, he suddenly reacted back. Hastily loosened the collar of the bee-eater and retreated several steps in despair. It's like a child who has done something bad and was discovered by his parents. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have thought that this kind of thing would happen to my daughter. Yèyuè Guāng, who was going to return to the dormitory of the schoolyard, passed by here and stroked the side of his forehead with one hand. There was a look in the facial features that made the people afraid to look directly. Just now, he faced hundreds of capable people who were still talking and laughing to win the High School Makoto. At this moment, it retreats like a mouse that has seen a cat. After a few seconds, Yèyuè Guāng's expression returned to normal, but the calmer, the more terrifying. Can you have a chat? Hey, I couldn't remember when I last spoke to someone in the tone of a question sentence. Yèyuè Guāng had just asked a question, and then shrugged self-deprecatingly, and walked towards High School Makoto. Don't come over. High School Makoto shivered and yelled with trembling feet. What's wrong? No matter how you say, my blood is flowing in your body, do you need to be so scared? Yèyuè Guāng continued to move forward without any pause in his steps. Don't come here. Seeing Yèyuè Guāng approaching him constantly, High School Makoto hissed and screamed, and successively took out several coins from the waist pocket of the dark gray tight-fitting combat suit. After being thrown into the air, the thumbs were raised and popped out, firing in bursts. Super electromagnetic gun, our family tradition. Facing this dark purple bursting super electromagnetic gun, the corner of Yèyuè Guāng's mouth rose involuntarily by 3 points. It is very different from the power that I played, and even a lot of distance from Makoto. 0. But there is no doubt that it is the ability of their family. Seeing that the super electromagnetic gun was about to hit Yèyuè Guāng's body. Advertisement at the last moment of High School Makoto. A worrisome color flashed through her eyes that she hadn't even noticed. However, her worries are obviously unnecessary. Those who have the power of LV5 level, but in Yèyuè Guāng's view, are the same as the two-color hockey. They are all child-level electromagnetic guns when they are shot at him. Like a mosquito biting an elephant. Even if it hits it, it will cause a trace of damage. Do not come, almost on the verge of collapse. High school Makoto seemed to forget that he had superpowers. Just like a normal little girl, she turned around and fled to the other side of the dark alley. Facing the wall blocking the front, he jumped up, and after flipping through it, he quickly disappeared into Yèyuè Guāng's field of vision. Is this period of daughter's rebellion? Yèyuè Guāng smiled self-deprecatingly. He was about to catch that girl back in a second. Hey, what's going on? Me? How am I lying here? Oh, I'm bleeding. I have to go to the hospital quickly. What happened? When did I come here? At this time, losing the control of the bee-eater, those who had been knocked down to the ground before woke up one by one. They had no memory of the control period at all, and one of them was curious about the situation where they fell to the ground right now. Spray. Yèyuè Guāng swept his eyes and fainted and analyzed the dirty bee-eater lying on the ground. After picking up the other princess, he walked to the dormitory of Takiwade's school garden and said to himself. Forget it, that girl is also very emotional, just give her a little time to calm down. But this matter, Makoto Naniko. Thinking of this, Yèyuè Guāng shook his head secretly. No, with the character of that girl, if she knew about this, she would definitely not be able to enjoy campus life harmlessly like she does now. In the end, I still have to wipe her *** drum with my own father. Chapter 223. What do you think of them? Takiwade branch dormitory located in the school garden. Huh? When did we go back to the dormitory? When the members of the Bee-Eater faction headed by Fanfeng Junzi returned to the dormitory, the psychological control ability imposed by the Bee-Eater exercises was also relieved with the fainting of the capable person. The girls turned to look around, muttering to themselves curiously. Master Fanfeng, I haven't seen the queen yet, another member of the Bee-Eater faction said. Fanfeng Runzi also immediately noticed that the beautiful figure was not found in the crowd, and when he was worried, he wanted to order his subordinates to look for it. However, at this moment, Yèyuè Guāng hugged the Bee-Eater princess in his elbows with both hands and walked from the front door of the dormitory. Whether it was a member of the Bee-Eater faction or not, they hurriedly did not swarm. Queen. Fanfeng Runzi, who is a Bee-Eater praying for brain residue, and others are also the first to see the Bee-Eater in such an embarrassed look, and they all asked anxiously. Teacher Yèyuè, what happened? Little things, I will heal her. Yèyuè Guāng ordered. Everyone will go back. Change to be a normal teacher, but with such ambiguous statements, it is absolutely impossible to persuade this group of self-esteem eldest ladies. But Yèyuè Guāng is definitely the only existence that can restrain them. It has nothing to do with whether it is a member of the Bee-Eater faction or not. This is the natural racial suppression. Yes, Fanfeng Runzi and the others did not dare to say much. Finally, Danyu cast a glance at the Bee-Eater who was still in a fainting state, and then looked at Yèyuè Guāng and brought him into his personal room. Can hurt LV5's Bee-Eater elder sister like that, only the 4 LV5s that rank ahead of her, right? Wane Suubao guessed. Not necessarily. Bee-Eater is not good at fighting by nature. If I were to be replaced by me, I might be able to defeat the opponent. After the marriage, Photon was swaying a folding fan, and the breeze from the fan lifted up the flocculation of her G-style hair. As Takiwade Middle School currently has less than 10 people, the preliminary master bicolor hockey exists. Advertisement. She is now very confident, but when she saw Princess Yèyuè Guāng being hugged close to the room, the piglet couldn't help but puff up a little. Gee, a little girl at this age likes to think wildly. Pao Fu Wan Bin, who was more introverted, did not speak because she was keenly aware of it. The scars on the Bee-Eater's body seemed to be caused by electric current. And the electric shock messenger who defeated the Bee-Eater analysis, except teacher Yi, she didn't dare to think anymore. Yèyuè Guāng's personal room or staff dormitory, but it should be said that it is the world's leading aristocratic girls' school, and the room layout is comparable to a star hotel. Okay, don't pretend. I really don't understand Lianxiangxiu, teacher, you can't find a girlfriend like this. The Bee-Eater who opened the eyes of the stars raised his index finger and said. Most of the white silk gloves have been damaged, showing cute fingers. I'm married, so what girlfriends are I talking about? Yèyuè Guāng lifted his index finger up, and his brain collapsed in the Bee-Eater, praying for his forehead. The Bee-Eater prayed aggrievedly and put his hands on the place where he was shot, staring pitifully at the stars. However, the current Yèyuè Guāng does not have any extra thoughts. Leaning directly on the wall next to him, half emptied his eyes and said. How much do you know about that Makoto? The Bee-Eater lowered his head, holding on to the powder wine for a while without saying a word. And Yèyuè Guāng didn't force her, so she waited in place. I don't know how long it took. The Bee-Eater prayed for the red wine, and the tone trembled slightly. At first glance, I know that kind of existence is definitely a clone of Yi classmate, or a clone. Halfway through, Bee-Eater Cauchy suddenly raised his head, his eyes looked directly at Yèyuè Guāng's pupils, and his teeth clenched. Teacher, what do you think of her existence? Do you think that they are just inferior products of your precious daughter, and their existence, for your beloved daughter, is just a defective product that should not exist in this world? Do you want to destroy them all? Advertisement. The reason why the Bee-Eater would ask this question. It originated from a conversation between her and only Dolly when she was in the artificial room in the past. At that time, the two people who met for the first time had discussed topics about their parents. At the beginning, the Bee-Eater exercises just accidentally mentioned this topic. Because the children adopted by the artificial house as the research object basically have no relatives or legal guardians, so that they can be the perfect research object of the artificial house. However, what she did not expect was when discussing this issue. Dolly showed an unprecedented sorrow, as if she muttered to herself like self-deprecating. Dad. Mom, if they let them see me, they will only despise me and hate me because I'm just an inferior copy of my sister. The bee-eater will never forget Dolly's expression at that time. And during these 310 months, not only was the bee-eater praying, but the entire Tokiwadai could see that Yèyuè Guāng was a darling demon. Don't think he always likes to tease Makoto, but once a boy dared to approach her or trouble her, this person will never see the sun rising the next day. Even the bee-eater who likes to prank Makoto the most, even if he thinks he has a close relationship with Yèyuè Guāng, don't dare to tease Makoto like before, and what worries the bee-eater most is Yèyuè Guāng's attitude towards Yèyu's sisters. In the worst case, Yèyuè Guāng would regard the existence of his sisters as an insult. It will be wiped out. This is certainly not impossible. After all, empathy, if the bee-eater, Shiruo found that he had a copy. It is never possible to have any good ideas. Everyone hopes that he is unique in this world, when his own clone appears in front of this. The first thought of most people is elimination. But the bee-eater, who regards Dolly as her most cherished person, has decided in her heart, if Yèyuè Guāng's attitude is like this, no matter what the price is, I absolutely must stop him. Chapter 224 What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? After being questioned by the bee-eater, Yèyuè Guāng suddenly responded and issued a rhetorical question. What? The bee-eater ****ed his little head slightly, obviously not understanding the meaning of Yèyuè Guāng. Immediately afterwards, I saw the other party walking to the window, and then said, they are indeed clones, but what is wrong with them when they are forced to be created? Although Yèyuè Guāng thinks she is not a good person, she will try her best to avoid misfortune when she does it. Just like the first filial son in the ninja world who was most uncomfortable in his previous life. Yèyuè Guāng was too lazy to comment and didn't want to comment on the behavior of the filial son. But your father has other people who want to rebel, so you just want to kill it. Your old lady, Uchiha Spring, and many women and children who did not participate in the coup d'état, you killed them together. That can only mean that your brains have been ridiculed. Of course, the reason why Yèyuè Guāng would adopt such an attitude. There is also a big reason, because the confrontation with Taimei Makoto, just now, the other's eyes showed the pain and fear when facing him. As well as the unbearable manifestation of being unbearable when starting with oneself. At that moment, Yèyuè Guāng had a new perspective on the other party. The bee-eater looked sluggishly at each other's background, and many nodded secretly inwardly as if making up their minds later. The mouth opened slightly and said, I was born in an organization called Artificial House. It took nearly half an hour. The bee-eater exercises Shikai to show her unknown past to Yèyuè Guāng. As the highest masterpiece of the artificial room, she was entrusted to take care of her sister named Dolly, numbered 0. At that time, Dolly had lost her best friend, and she was in the artificial room because she regarded her as the most important research material. Therefore, in order to soothe her emotions, let the bee-eater exercise the ability to use the mental control cognitive confusion. Ling Taoli mistakenly believed that the bee-eater praying was her friend. Because the ability of bee-eater exercises and prayers at that time has not yet been developed to the extent of memory erasure. So this method can only be used. However, what makes bee-eater Couchy not aware is that Dolly has already noticed that the other party is pretending to be. It's just that I haven't pierced the bee-eater, until a few months later, the other party died and asked the real name of the bee-eater before dying. Advertisement this made her suddenly realize. At the same time, he left an indelible wound in the heart of the bee-eater. Swear to avenge Dolly. In the end, the bee-eater exercised the ability to further develop and destroyed the man-made house, but still faced the chasing and killing of many remnants of the party. In the end, he had to join Tokiwadai to seek protection. This is the past of the bee-eater. When I enrolled in school, when I saw Yèyuè Makoto, who looked exactly like Dolly, I was shocked. Until then, I didn't know that she was the original body, carrot. Explain that the more you go to the back, the lower the head of the bee-eater. As if seeking comfort, he hugged Yèyuè Guāng's pillow like a puppet and stepped into it with most of his pretty face. Suddenly noticed that there was a smell that he had never felt before. Changdi couldn't help but puff twice again. The pretty face couldn't help flashing red luck again. I shouldn't be seen, right? How could Yèyuè Guāng not see it? He just pretended not to see it and asked. That's why you hate Makoto so much. No hate. I wanted to get along with her at first, but after a few tries, I gave up. Sure enough, the two of us couldn't get along at all. After Luo Qi said all the heavy passed, the bee-eater praying in front of Yèyuè Guāng seemed to be more and more flying. After raising, he fell down on the bed, and hugged Yèyuè Guāng's pillow tightly and said. Just as an old Chinese saying goes, maybe the two of us are born with a different character, and it has nothing to do with Dolly. Yèyuè Guāng swept his gaze from the pure white under the bee-eater's pray for school skirts, and he rarely reminded him in earnest tone. Don't tell Makoto about this. The bee-eater who was lying down looked slightly stagnant, and smiled like a peony blooming 2 seconds later. Really a good father who loves his daughter. Using bee-eaters to pray for the understanding of Yèyuè Guāng, he immediately guessed that Yèyuè Guāng did this to relieve Makoto's inner burden. But for some reason, there was also a little displeasure in my heart. Sure enough, I couldn't get along with that Billy girl. Then we are companions now. The bee-eater prayed for a change of posture, squatting on the creation shop, and swaying his 2 white silk feet. What are you going to do with the sister matter? That Dame Makoto, although she possesses superpowers, I can see that her birthday is extremely short and the energy in her body is very unstable. Yèyuè Guāng pulled out a chair and sat down and continued. Advertisement, in all likelihood, the place where she will be made tonight will be repaired. Wait and act tomorrow. Haha, well, listen to you. The bee-eater yawned. Buzzing, suddenly, Yèyuè Guāng's cell phone rang. I took it out and found that it was an email from Makoto. Eduo-sang, tomorrow weekend, can you go shopping together? Yèyuè Guāng was stunned. With Makoto's tsundere character, it is really rare that he would actively invite him. But thinking about Makoto Taime, Yèyuè Guāng quickly replied. Open black lens bracket next time. After turning off the phone, Yèyuè Guāng got up and turned his head. Bee-eater, you too. Woo, just when Yèyuè Guāng was about to let the bee-eater pray back to her own dormitory room. A slight snoring sound came into the ear. Looking around again, I saw that the bee-eater was lying asleep. After all, I have experienced too much today, and, good, will tell the heavy past. With such ups and downs, her spirit has indeed reached its limit. If there is no business tomorrow, I will let you know what the sinister society is. Looking at the bee-eater's sleeping face, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help but let out a sneer. La la la, after a while, the sound of showering was heard from the other side of the bathroom. The sleeping bee analyzed the star eye on the right side of the half-opened eye, and the small heart thumped fiercely. And outside the door, whether it is the bee-eater sect headed by Fanfeng Runzi, the Wan'e silk guard of the harem of Wanfeng Junzi, Wan Nai Baofu Wan Bin, or Yèyuè Guāng's brain residue photon after marriage. None of them returned to the room, but secretly guarded Yèyuè Guāng outside the room. His little hand was supporting the wall, secretly showing half of his head and looking this way. A pair of watery pears almost wanted to penetrate the wall to see what was going on inside. Chapter 225 The Queen Becomes the Queen. Sir, in the Academy City late at night, I didn't know that a storm was brewing. And is on the verge of collapse at any time, when the guard is late at night after 000. Having been listening to the corner outside the door, half of the girls in Takiwadai really couldn't stand it anymore. Wan'e Jubao checked the time on the phone 1016. Girl, isn't the queen planning to come out tonight? Wan'e Junbao blinked his eyes and asked Baofu Wan Bin and Coco after marriage to the 2 friends beside him. The character seems calm and quiet, but in fact it is just a disguise. The real character is more shy than Wan'e Swenbao. Baofu Wan Bin blushes and can boil water quickly. Although only 13 years old, the knowledge education of Neon is far above China. Especially for this young girl who is in love with her. The bee-eaters prayed to enter Yèyuè Guāng's room for a long time, and they naturally reminded them of that aspect. No, as a representative of Takiwadai, after my marriage, Photon must stop the unethical behavior of the teacher and classmate bee-eater. After marriage, Photon didn't know what was going on. Folding the folding fans together, he walked aggressively towards the door of Yèyuè Guāng's room. Calm down. Classmates after marriage. Wan'e Swanbao and Baofu Wanbin quickly grabbed her. And the students who occupy more than 90% of this dormitory, the girls of the bee-eater faction, turned their attention to the second figure of the faction 310. Fanfengrunzi body. Fanfengrunzi also feels numb scalp. What to do? She has never encountered such a thing. For a time, nearly 100 people in the dormitory just stood outside Yèyuè Guāng's room all night. By tomorrow, I am afraid that some strange rumors will be spread again. The first rays of sunlight in the morning are reflected in the room through the gaps in the curtains. Do you really want to go together? Yèyuè Guāng looked at it and yawned, and then stretched out his arms to make a lazy bee-eater. Although I don't know how many times I have watched it so far, Yèyuè Guāng can't help but doubt it. Is this Nizi really a junior high school student? It feels like Hinata is not exaggerating. The teacher protects me, right? Advertisement. The bee-eater prays for a strong index finger to the lower jaw, always selling cute. Yèyuè Guāng rubbed his temples and noticed that the bee-eater was still wearing a school uniform that was struck by thunderbolt by Taime Makoto yesterday. He opened the closet and took out a Takiwadai school uniform from it. Replace it. Spray. I didn't expect the teacher to have this kind of interest, collecting girls' school uniforms in the room. The bee-eater joked with Chi Nu. Bang! Yèyuè Guāng hooked her index finger slightly, rewarded her with a blow and said with a violent thud. What do you think? This is Makoto's, isn't it more pervert? The bee-eater whispered inwardly, but didn't dare to say it. Only then did I realize that I had forgotten to take a bath last night, and I was still a little dirty. In normal times, it is absolutely unbearable for her to cleanse her body every day. But nothing is more important to her than Dolly. Therefore, the bee-eater is not hypocritical, so he quickly changed his clothes. But before that, he glared at Yèyuè Guāng and hummed. Turn it over. I didn't plan to watch it originally. Yèyuè Guāng walked into the bathroom and washed his face. Like the bee-eater, his current thoughts are all placed on Sister Yèyuè. Otherwise, let the bee-eater pray to know what the sinister society is last night. It's morning, in the dormitory of Takiwadai Academy. Wan'e Swanbao took out his mobile phone and glanced again, his eyes widened and darkened in astonishment. Last night, the entire dormitory was entangled about whether to knock on Yèyuè Guāng's door. As a result, he hesitated. It's all morning. The dozens of girls outside the door looked at each other. A faint black halo appeared on one or two eye rims, and he was drowsy. For Takiwadai, who has a strict curfew system, BAFA, this is probably the first time in their lives that they stayed up late. Taste, just when the girls really couldn't hold on. The door to Yèyuè Guāng's room suddenly opened. Advertisement. After marriage, the photons and other women were instantly shocked. Then they saw an analysis of the bee-eater walking out of the door wearing a completely inappropriate school uniform. After all, the 168 cm bee-eater is really reluctant to wear a 161 cm Mikoto school uniform. Especially the coat is obviously shorter, coupled with the size gap in some places. The snow-white lower abdomen that caused the bee-eater to F********* G was all exposed. "You, what are you doing here?" Originally still whispering about Mikoto's school uniform, the size of the bee-eater was really small. As soon as he left the house, he met Photon after marriage, and his subordinate Junko Fanfeng and other people's eyes. He was so frightened that he took 2 steps back and almost fell to the ground. Female, Queen Fanfeng Junzi and the other members of the bee-eater faction have extremely complex expressions, and their tone reveals a bit of despair. Have you already stepped up the stairs of the adults? If I said that before, I was just skeptical, so now the bee-eater came out wearing a school uniform that didn't fit at all. In the eyes of Photon and the others after their marriage, it is an absolute fact that the bee-eater fucks up the steps of adults. Do you want to call you, my queen, from now on? The first time the target was actually a teacher. Her Majesty Queen is so bold. Then, the queen, then, what kind of feeling is that? Student bee-eater, it's wrong for you to do this. The other party is Yiyu's father. After Fanfeng Runzi opened the chat box, dozens of girls remained, regardless of whether they were members of the bee-eater faction or not. All flocked to the bee-eaters. The youthful and beautiful face is full of shyness, curiosity, longing, and even yearning. The bee-eater prayed that a pair of stars almost stared out of his eye sockets. What are these people talking about? What has become of themselves in their hearts? What is an adult's step? After 5 seconds, bee-eater Cauchy realized what kind of misunderstanding he had caused by staying in Yèyuè Guāng's room all night. While shy and angry, I just want to take out the remote control to erase the memories of these 8 trigrams women. If you want to waste time here, I'll go first. Just as the bee-eater prayed to take out the remote control and wanted amnestics. Yèyuè Guāng suddenly passed behind him, and quickly walked out of the dormitory amidst the screams of the women. Chapter 226 The Most Perfect Sister. Hey, wait. Seeing that Yèyuè Guāng's back became farther and farther away, the bee-eater stepped on his feet a few times in a hurry, and hurried to chase after him. Unlike short-term thought control, memory erasure takes a certain amount of time. Not to mention that there are so many targets. Thinking of Yèyu's sister, the bee-eater had to temporarily give up the thought of erasing the memories of Photon and others after marriage. Hurried to chase Yèyuè Guāng. Sure enough, the queen has already ascended the stairs of the adults. Fanfeng Runzi was even more sure that the queen had already become a mature woman 1 step earlier. Oh, no way. The queen has the right to choose her spouse freely. But the other party is not only a teacher, but also the father of classmate Mikoto. This is a bit inappropriate, right? Too shameless, actually, and my teacher. After the marriage, Photon said that this is too irritating. Oh no, too shameless. Should I tell Mikoto-senpai about this? Wane Swenbao asked with a weak voice. Pao Fu Wan Bin looked at other classmates who were constantly discussing, and smiled bitterly. Even if you don't tell her, she will know right away, right? Look at this discussion heat. Paobu Wanbin is sure that it will spread throughout Takiwadai in less than half an hour. It was also when Yèyuè Guāng and bee-eater Cauchy had just left the branch dormitory of the school in Takiwadai. School City, in a certain experimental center. Wearing a white coat, Arai Yao, a researcher who was a major participant in the mass production ability program, is dying with the girl in the training cabin. Chestnut brown hair and silver-gray combat uniform. Wearing a ventilator in the nose and mouth, the whole person is immersed in a healing nutrient solution. Just like the world of Dragon Ball, Kakarot who was being treated at Namek. It was Taimei Mikoto, who defeated the bee-eater Fukuchi yesterday. Even the most perfect copy so far can't use abilities that will like the original? Tianjing Yashang frowned and muttered to himself in a low voice. At that time, he launched the mass production type ability program, just to mass produce super electromagnetic gun, Yèyuè Mikoto's clone, in order to produce a large number of LV5 super ability. However, the ending ended in a big failure. Advertisement. More than 99.9% of the replicas are cultivated in the culture chamber before embryos are formed. All died. So far, the sister Yèyuè, who has successfully completed the birth and is self-conscious, adds up to less than the number of fingers in one hand. Even if they can be born, their lifespan is extremely short because of genetic defects. It is a miracle to live for a few months. Among them, the codename, OOOO, which is Dolly, who is regarded as the most important person by bee-eaters, is one of them. Also died of a genetic defect. In front of me, I was soaking in the nutrition cabin for treatment. She was called the most perfect replica, and the Taimei Mikoto, codenamed Fanwai individual, was also one of the younger sisters who were successfully born. Able to use LV5 level electric shock. The difference from the previous failed products is that she uses Makoto's latest DNA for manufacturing. That is, the latest DNA of Makoto obtained during the ability test of Takiwada yesterday. So, it hasn't been 24 hours since she was born, but at the same time, she accepted the negative emotions of her sisters who could still be born and die before. The character is extremely unstable. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the transparent glass of the nutrition cabin. Tianjing Yashang, who was originally meditating, was taken aback. But he hasn't waited for any action yet, Puffy. In the next second, the entire nutrition chamber burst and exploded completely. The glass residue and the nutrient liquid inside splashed out. Arai Yashang in the laboratory and other experiment participants in white coats were also knocked out by the shockwave. He slammed into the wall behind him in embarrassment. Clatter, Taimei Makoto fringed his eyebrows with bangs still moistened with nutrient solution, acting cool and sassy and said. Shout, it took so much time. After uttering a word to herself, Taimei Makoto, or Fanwai individual tossed the water stains in her hair, and then ignored the experimenters who were thrown back on their backs at all. Then walked out. Hey, wait, you have to undergo a physical examination. At this time, Tianjing Yashang endured the pain from his body and barely got up to block the path of the extraneous individual. -0 seeking flowers. 0 advertisement. In order to carry out the research plan for the super electromagnetic gun, the current Arai Yashang has already shouldered a huge debt. It is hard to make a real LV5 replica. Although there are still flaws, at least for the experiment, there is a huge great breakthrough. You can confess with the high levels of Academy City. However, the trouble is that it inherited the negative emotions of those unborn sisters. As a result, Fanwai individuals extremely hate these researchers. Adopt a confrontational attitude towards all their orders. Even fought. Roll, facing the young Arai who stood in front of him. The extraneous individual punched the opponent relentlessly in the abdomen. Even if there are still flaws, but at any rate it has the strength of LV5. Point 0 in Yèyuè Guāng's view, it is just a fist of the house. For ordinary people, it is like being hit by a tank. He was hit again and hit the wall behind, even hit a groove. What a disgusting place. Just all, the Fanwai individual looked at this laboratory with disgust. A dark purple thunder erupted, and it was about to swallow the entire building. Suddenly, a shrill sound resembling an ultrasound echoed in the head of Fanwai individual. Under the severe pain, the violent surging current instantly disappeared without a trace. The Fanwai individual who was holding his head in pain fought with a wing, and almost fell to the ground. Woolen cloth. I don't know how long it took before the pain in the brain eased. Damn it, you hum. Endless unwillingness. In the end it turned into a helpless cold snort. Fanwai violently smashed the thickened window next to it, facing the height of 100 meters outside the window, and fell without the slightest hesitation, tightening his willow eyebrows, and said to himself language. First from you, the original body. Inside the house, Tianjing Yashang and others reluctantly stood up from the ground. One of the researchers said to himself, it's really hard to control the extra fan individual, but fortunately, it has the last works command tower ability, which can restrain her, and... Chapter 227 Daughter is angry. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Bee-eater FK that damn it guy. A new day's weekend. Makoto strode down the street, while Zizong complained angrily. What's so great, one day I can be like my mother. Even when she is out of school on weekends, she still wears the light brown school uniform. This is the school rules of Takiwada. My sister, you've been complaining for 2 hours, it's almost enough, right? Hyuga, who followed, could not help but vomit. It happened in the school dormitory of Takiwada, about the bee-eaters who stayed in Yèyuè Guāng's room all night. Makoto and Shirai Kuroko who live in the school's dormitory have been heard. Based on Makoto's understanding of Yèyuè Guāng, no matter how much his father is, he will not be able to deal with girls of the same age as him. There should be a reason that I don't know, but even so, Makoto was still very angry. He came to Xingxi to inquire about crimes with Hyuga aggressively. It turned out that Yèyuè Guāng and bee-eater exercise chi had gone out a long time ago, and I don't know where they went. Makoto felt frustrated with a fist hitting the cotton all over his body and felt sullen and had to leave unhappy. Wandering aimlessly in the street with Shirai Kuroko. Humph. Walking to a vending machine, Makoto hummed heavily and swept the side of the vending machine with one blow. After the loud noise, cans of drinks were spit out from the vendors without money. My sister, can you be a little bit of Takiwade's ace? Seeing Makoto's rude actions and the safety pants under the short skirt, Kuroko felt desperate and said. Occasionally, like other students in the school, they learn skills such as flower arranging and tea ceremony, or... Oh don't, am I like someone who does that kind of thing? Makoto curled his mouth in disdain, and looked at the cans all over the floor with his waist, spitting out. Odin curry soup. What company can come up with this kind of drink? Although yesterday's bee-eater ****ed with that guy, she was annoyed. Advertisement. But what makes Makoto even more angry is that Yèyuè Guāng spent more time with the bee-eater after taking office at Takiwada than his biological daughter. Finally, I can go out on weekends, and I want to invite him together. As a result, Yèyuè Guāng refused because there was still something to do. This is what really makes Makoto so popular. Why do you behave like the young girl who finds her lover cheated, sir sister? Baijing Haixi secretly complained inwardly and suddenly thought of something and proposed. That's right, sister, I really want to see her my backup one day in the Commissioner for Discipline, can I meet her? Haixi's friend. Well, I belong to the 177 branch of the Commissioner for Discipline and Discipline. She is a girl in charge of logistics and police affairs. She is a fan of my sister. Listening to Shirai Kuroko's explanation, Makoto nodded without thinking after taking out a can of carbonated drinks from the drinks on the floor. I have already greeted students from Wanei and Paofu. As long as that old man comes back, immediately send a message to tell himself. However, Makoto didn't know. What Yèyuè Guāng is busy with when she refuses her invitation is also related to her baby girl. In a secret experiment building, only after being cleaned up by fanwai individuals, a group of scientific researchers, headed by Tianjing Yashang, participated in the mass production plan of capable people. At this time, one of the two is even more split like coal. Hey, don't kill them, I still have something to ask. The bee-eater chased up from behind and patted Yèyuè Guāng's back fiercely. Quickly take out the remote control from your own bag, and press the control button with a beep. It doesn't need to be so troublesome, it's all written here. Yèyuè Guāng picked up the fileboard on the desk and read. Sister Yèyuè Fanwai individual, the strongest sister made with the latest DNA of Makoto Yèyuè, has the LV5 electric shock ability, but still not as good as the original body, and has defects in physical retention. After using the ability, it needs to be repaired and cured with a nutrient solution. Seeing this, Yèyuè Guāng stomped. With a loud sound of boom, one of the researcher's head was stepped on and exploded like a water polo. Although he is a superpower of LV5, in the final analysis it is only a bee-eater of a 14-year-old girl. He has seen such bloody scenes a few times. Advertisement: the surface of the snow-white skin couldn't help but tremble with a layer of goosebumps. The tiny radio waves that are hard to discern with the naked eye cover the entire building. Everything in the entire building was exposed by Yèyuè Guāng's perception. There is still such a thing hidden. Yèyuè Guāng muttered to himself suddenly and walked to the giant gate leading to the deeper part of the building. This is, the owl mechanical sound followed. Begin to verify. The retina password verification failed. Non-planned participants, no access. Tisk. Yèyuè Guāng curled his mouth and made a disdainful noise. He lifted his right index finger and was about to smash it directly. But then I thought about it, under this blow, it would be bad if it spread to the things behind me. So he turned and walked until he fell in front of Tianjing Yashang, who was on the ground. You, what are you going to do? Looking at the tall figure that looked like a ghost in front of him, Tianjing Yashang only felt a strong fear that surged deep in his soul. Just as an ominous premonition was pouring out of the bee-eater, I just listened to Yèyuè Guāng indifferently. Kids don't watch. The bee-eater answered with an, oh, and turned his back to the past. 5.0 in the next second, Yèyuè Guāng suddenly shot and clasped his big hand on the top of Tianjing Yashang's head. At the same time, Yèyuè Guāng pressed his other hand on his shoulder. Pull it like this. Feeling the violent pulling pain coming from the neck, Akio Arai's eyes widened. He realized what the other party wanted to do. Wait, stop, stop, stop. In the miserable screams and roars of Yashang Tianjing, Yèyuè Guāng forcibly tore his head off his neck. It's as easy as tearing a chicken leg, but the bee-eater with his back did not dare to turn around and look back from beginning to end. She couldn't even believe what kind of death it was to make people scream that desperately. Chapter 228, The Last Work and number 0000. Verifying retina password. The AI sound of the password valve sounded again. Verification successful. Yèyuè Guāng casually threw the key of Yashang's head in his hand to the other side. Shouted to the bee-eater who still had his back to him. Girl, come in. The bee-eater turned around after hearing the words. The light from the corner of his eye unconsciously swept over the headless body of Tianjing Yashang on the ground. She was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. Haven't killed anyone? Seeing her embarrassed appearance, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help laughing and joking. Of course not. The bee-eater shouted angrily. Even if it was the artificial room that she hated most in the past, it just brainwashed all those people. She has never killed anyone. Faced with such a bloody scene, it's pretty good not to vomit. Yèyuè Guāng smiled slightly and walked deeper into the laboratory. Bee-eater exercises followed closely behind. What quickly came into view were the vacant training cabins. At the deepest position, 10 positions, a seat stands in the deepest center of the laboratory, as if the main core exists in the large incubation cabin. When seeing the small body inside, Yèyuè Guāng felt as if he had traveled through several years ago. Makoto was not Tsunere's time yet. Yesterday I just met a sister like Makoto. Is there another lowly version today? Among the tens of thousands of nurtured sisters, Wanli picks one that survives, as a tower-like existence of the sister's commander. The final work. As long as it is used to suppress the existence of other Yèyuè sisters. When the Fanwai individual wanted to attack Tianjing Yashang and other researchers, he finally gave up out of instinct. It is the ability of the last work to be worshipped. Next to the final work, there is another special training cabin that looks like a deputy. A young girl who looked like Makoto was also asleep. And her visual observation is young, exactly the same as Makoto. It's not a few years old like the Fanwai individual, nor is it a few years old like the last one. He was 14 years old, just like Makoto. The only difference is probably only the waist-length hair behind her head that is the same as the bee-eater analysis. Advertisement, Dolly. Bee-eater Couchi's eyes widened, and he threw himself in front of the cabin door. Mingming and Makoto look exactly the same, but she doesn't know why. The identity of the other party can be distinguished only with eyes. Perhaps this is the fetters of feelings. It's like even if you put Makoto among tens of thousands of younger sisters, Yèyuè Guāng can still recognize her at a glance. But the long-haired version of Makoto in this assistant training cabin is no longer Dolly. The codename, Yèyuè is Yèyuè 0, which is a copy of Dolly. To be precise, it is the existence of Dolly's memory, body, and personality. So it's not right to think of her as another Dolly. The bee-eater did not lose his mind while praying for the same anxiously. Quickly press the remote control the researcher who has not died, and tell the situation of Yèyuè. After Dolly died, she was the most important first copy. The researcher used her as a template to create the second Dolly. Illustration that is, number 000, but like other sisters who can't be born at all. Dolly's genetic defect is more serious. Once she leaves the incubator, she will die immediately. The bee-eater prays for sharp eyesight shrinkage. In horror, I didn't know what to do, puffing. I don't know how to pray for bee-eaters. As the central tower, the glass cover covering the cultivation chamber of the last work suddenly shattered. A large amount of nutrient solution splashed and overflowed from it. Yèyuè Guāng stretched out his hands and hugged the last fallen work in his arms. Unlike No, although there are also genetic defects, the problem is much smaller. The final work is capable of action. It's just to suppress the uncertain existence like Fanwai individual. That's why the researchers kept her here all the time. Dao, what is she going to do with Dolly? At this moment, the bee-eater is completely out of the Queen of Takiwadai, tearful eyes like a little milk dog about to be abandoned, looking at Yèyuè Guāng with begging eyes. Yèyuè Guāng didn't answer immediately, holding the final work with one hand. Turning his gaze slightly, he found a tube for injecting nutrient solution into the culture chamber. Suddenly stretched out his hand to tear the catheter in two. Advertisement, yeah. What are you doing? Bee-eater fist was so frightened that he immediately wanted to punch Yèyuè Guāng with a cat punch. However, she hasn't waited for her to act. However, Yèyuè Guāng saw Yèyuè Guāng's right hand and a knife in his hand, drawing it on the palm of his left hand. Red blood dripped from the wound. Yèyuè Guāng covered the wound on the opening of the incubation chamber, causing his own blood to pour into it. This is, the bee-eater prays for the star-eyed boss. Through the glass plate, I watched number 000 bathed in this red blood with a strong sense of mystery. The consequences will depend on her good fortune. After not knowing how much blood was released, Yèyuè Guāng took his hand back. The wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. 313 and under the incredible eyes of the bee-eater. The body of Yèyuè looks like a hungry beast seeing its prey. Greedy absorbs the blood bathed on the surface of the skin. It's considered a different method to inherit my blood, it should be no problem. Yèyuè Guāng hugged the last work in his arms, silently observing the situation of Yèyuè. In fact, he himself did this for the first time. After the skin completely absorbed the blood of God, Yèyuè in the cultivation cabin finally opened his eyes slowly. It is very different from the fierceness of Makoto Tsunere and the outsiders. Those are pure eyes like angels. When I see Yèyuè Guāng and the bee-eater outside through the transparent glass window, especially Yèyuè Guāng. She inherited Dolly's memories and emotions. The focus in the pupils of the eyes suddenly shrank, and it took several seconds to slightly open his mouth and feet before he could barely squeeze out a few words from the depths of the throat. Oh Puffy! Yèyuè Guāng directly opened the outer door of the training cabin with one hand and threw behind him. With the other hand, he took out Yèyuè, who was wearing an experimental tights similar to dead reservoir water. Under the worried eyes of the bee-eater, she said something that made her finally relieved. Successful. Chapter 229 Sisters Meet, Successful. When I heard these three words from Yèyuè Guāng, the bee-eater showed a smile like a blooming flower. However, there is no waiting for the two to take further action. The corner of Yèyuè Guāng's eyebrows suddenly picked up. Squirt, play with this hand, Teacher Yèyuè, what are you talking about? The bee-eater tilted his head in confusion. Bring the two of them back to the dormitory. I have another thing to do. Without waiting for the bee-eater to respond, Yèyuè Guāng handed over the 000 number and the final work to her. In a blink of an eye, it turned into an electric light and disappeared in place. Had it not been for 3 months of devil training, the bee-eater would definitely not be able to hold the two Makoto, one big and one small. Damn it. Always liked to call people so much. The bee-eater, who became the Roaring Emperor, had to carry number 000 behind his back, and his hands held the last princess. Staggering and reluctantly walked into the stairs, it took the boss's effort to stop a taxi and return to the dormitory of the schoolyard. What is that? Bee-eater Cao Chi had just boarded the taxi with the number 000 and the last work, turned his head to look, and suddenly found that he was about a dozen miles away from him. Like Takiwadai Middle School, in the same area as the 7th School District, a soaring beam of light rises up to the sky. Look up, even pierce the atmosphere and reach the universe. The instinct of bee-eater exercises produces an unknown premonition. But all she had to do now was to quickly settle down the two Makoto, one big and one small. Teacher will take care of it, the bee-eater said to himself in a low voice. The time was set back 10 minutes ago, in a family restaurant not far from the 177 branch of the Commissioner for Discipline and Discipline. Two girls, both aged 13 and up, introduced themselves. That is, I'm the same as Shirai. I belong to the 177th branch of the disciplinary committee. Chuchen Shili, who is in charge of logistical support. Please advise, Yèyuè Senpai, carrot. Wearing a wreath on the top of her head, the girl who is not beautiful but also very cute, shyly introduced herself to Makoto, who was sitting across from her with extremely longing eyes. I am Zuoshin Lizzie, a classmate in the early spring, and I was pulled over for some reason. Compared with the longing of Lee in the early spring, the other long-haired girl next to him looked much calmer. When she looked at Makoto, there was a hint of hostility flashing in the depths of her eyes, and added a sentence at the end. By the way, I am LV0, after entering the school city for several years, she failed to develop her own superpowers. Advertisement on weekdays, it is not uncommon for people with advanced abilities to commit malicious acts. Therefore, there is an almost instinctive sense of rejection for Makoto, a superpower who stands at the apex of the Academy City. Ah, Sadan-san, what are you doing? In the early spring, Lee is in a hurry. This is Makoto Yezuki, please advise. However, what they didn't expect was that Makoto didn't mention ability and family background at all. He just reported his life with a kind smile. Chuchen Shili and Zuotien Lizzie on the opposite side couldn't help being stunned. I feel that my personality is different from what I imagined. During the conversation, Makoto's words and deeds completely surpassed the expectations of Hatsuharu Shiri and Sadan Kiriko. She didn't imagine the demeanor of the eldest lady at all, she was just an ordinary girl next door. Baijing Haitsi was also very helpless about this. She always hoped that her sister could become another queen who rules Tokipontai like the bee-eater, and even establishes her own faction. But for this, Makoto just curled his lips and replied with no interest. Illustration, am I like someone who can do that kind of thing? Like Makoto Senpai, LV5, who stands at the top of the Academy City, what type of boys do you like? After understanding Makoto's character, Chuchen Shili gradually let go of chatting with Makoto, but his eyes were still full of longing. Do you like the boy? Makoto couldn't cope with this topic. The back of Yèyuè Guāng appeared involuntarily in his mind. In less than a second, he shook his head severely. What are you thinking? While the conversation continued, the faces of Makoto and Haitsi suddenly fuse. Careful. Kuroko jumped up from the seat, and put his arms around Chuharu Shiri and Sadan Kiriko with both hands. Makoto turned around abruptly and raised his right hand. The electric light gushing from the body forms a barrier. Ridicule, it was the moment when Makoto hit the electric barrier for less than half a second. Advertisement, a dark purple laser hit the electromagnetic bulge. Blow everything in a radius of 100 meters directly. Those cars parked on the side of the road were shaken by the shockwave and flew out of the ground to a height of tens of meters. It fell heavily and smashed on the ground and turned into scrap. A violent shockwave swept across the street. Sadan Kiriko, who was protected by Shirai Kuroko, said unbelievably. What's wrong? What happened? Seeing that the aftermath gradually dissipated, Haitsi released the two people and said inwardly. If it weren't for my father to teach Haitsi that, I would definitely not be able to react. Thank you for protecting us, Makoto. At that time, Chun Shili was about to express his gratitude to Makoto. Immediately afterwards, I saw Makoto Yezuki standing sluggishly and completely dumbfounded. Kuroko and Sakuriko also noticed Makoto's strangeness. While curious, he subconsciously followed Makoto's eyes and looked across the road. Good enough. Immediately afterwards, they were also frightened and froze in place. He looks exactly the same as Makoto, but his body and face are more mature. Makoto like a high school student. Who is Makoto-senpai's older sister? Early Spring decoratedly curiously said. As far as Kuroko knows, your elder sister shouldn't have elder sister, right? For the sunspot of pervert lily girl, the existence of the high school version of Makoto across the road is simply double happiness. But this fact came too suddenly and shockingly. Let her not be able to relax. Who are you to tortured? After a long time, Makoto finally reluctantly returned to God from the shock, unbelievably acting on the fan outside the road across the road. However, the fanwai individual showed a fierce, cruel smile and said. I finally saw you, primate, chapter 230 Sisters Death Fight. I finally saw you, primate. When the extraterrestrial individual uttered these words, Makoto's expression suddenly fused again. Immediately seeing the dark purple lightning rising from the opponent's body, the pupils in Makoto's eyes suddenly shrank, waving his hand to Shirai Kuroko behind him. Haitsi, quickly transfer Chuchen and Zuoshin away. It is rare to see my sister's adult showing such a serious expression, and the look of Shirai Haiko in Daily Pervert is also solemn. It seems that the person opposite is not the older sister's older sister. I see, my sister must be careful. Haitsi's hands are one on each side, pressing on the shoulders of Zuotien Lei and Chuchen Shili. While disappearing, it almost instantly moved to the top of another tall building, half a mile apart. From here, you can barely see Makoto's situation. Here, what the hell is going on? Who is that person who seems to be senior sister Yèyuè? Isn't it her family? Zuotien Lizzie was completely forced by the current situation. I don't know, but according to Heizi's understanding, my sister should be the only child. Shiraiko's eyebrows were twisted together. Just finished saying this, relying on the entry-level knowledge that I just learned. Baijing's sunspot keenly caught several strands of energy that were not weaker than her 313, and even 2 strands of energy that surpassed her, and rushed here. Who is it? In the middle of the street. When I saw that there were only 2 people left in the entire avenue, I and Makoto. The fanwai entity suddenly waved, and a dark purple lightning gun about 2 meters long was condensed in his palm. But in the blink of an eye, he rushed in front of Makoto and hit the front of his face without mercy. Makoto's willow eyebrows twisted, and he struck the whip leg sideways to kick the lightning gun in the direction of attack. At the same time, the right hand made a gesture of grabbing something. A large amount of iron sand rose from the cracks on the ground, turned into a long whip, and collided with the opponent's thunder gun. The confrontation between LV5 caused the shockwave to cause second-degree damage to the entire street. Feeling the opposing force's oppressive power, the anger on the faces of fanwai individual is even greater, and he hates. Should I say that it is the original body? But, it is me who wins, it is me, I existed to defeat you. Seeing the other party's anger, even the expression of being hunted. A hint of intolerance appeared on Makoto's face. Baffa, but this moment of relaxation. Advertisement let the outsiders seize the opportunity. Holding the thunder gun in both hands, he lifted off Makoto's iron whip. The big swing swept forward. Upon seeing this, Makoto quickly backed away. But even so, the tip of the fringe in front of the eyebrows was still shaved off. Who are you? Makoto asked the question he was most concerned about twice. I'm Yuzuki Makoto. The individual outside the fan almost roared out the name. Under Makoto's incredible gaze, he released a tighter, stormy combo. I'm not a copy of you, I am real. While resisting the opponent's crazy combo, Makoto suddenly remembered. When she was very young, she was just sent to the school by Yèyuè Guāng and Masaka Mireu to attend elementary school in the city, when she had her first physical examination. There was a physical examination. At that time, the school extracted the DNA of all enrolled students on the grounds of helping students develop their DNA. Makoto said with a shocked face, could it be that you were the... However, Makoto's words were just halfway through, as if they had touched the scales of the individual outside of fanwai. The other party's expression became even more hideous and distorted, and the anger continued. I don't agree. I definitely don't agree that I am just a copy of you. I am Yèyuè Makoto. After killing you, I am Yèyuè Makoto. While the other party's words were self-vending, they also blew themselves up. Makoto couldn't believe it. This kind of thing happened to him. Swelling after the symphony of the collision of iron sand and thunder light. The two sides moved a little apart. Sorry. Makoto said these 3 words bitterly. Obviously, this matter was premeditated by the school, or the upper-level personnel of the school city. But she, the person who surrendered the DNA map, bears an inescapable responsibility anyway. The body of the individual outside for a while. After shaking for a few seconds, he gritted his teeth and said. What's the use of saying this now? Advertisement. Pippi, accompanied by the harsh electric thunder and lightning strikes, the dark purple thunder and lightning on the surface of Fanwai's body became more and more exaggerated, instantly smashing the touched objects into children's powder. Your existence will only make me feel uncomfortable, it will only make me feel that I am just a copy. The dark purple thunder and lightning intertwined in midair converged into a thunderbeast struggling to heal, like a stunt that Yèyuè Guāng used to use in the past. Unicorn. So, I want to kill you. I want to tell everyone in the world. I am Yèyuè Makoto. At the same time, it was on the roof of the building half a mile away from the battle between the sisters. Shirai Kuroko, who guards Satin Laiko and Chuharu Shiri behind her. With a guarded face, staring at the 2 groups of people who arrived. The 7 superpowers in Academy City ranked 3rd, open black lens bracket Weiyuan material close black lens bracket Emperor Yuangan. Ranked 4th, atomic collapse, Mai Yi Shenli, and the organization they lead. Anbu organizes, school, and, props, Shirai Kuroko didn't know that the 2 of them were the 3rd and 4th among the 7 superpowers in Academy City. However, based on what I learned from Yèyuè Guāng, we can roughly judge the strength of this group of people. 2 LV5, and following them, the suspected 1. Basically, they are all LV1 level capable people. Damn it. Although a lot of progress has been made, most of the LV4 sunspots can be ignored. But LV5 is definitely not the opponent she can deal with now. And look at the expressions of this group of people, they are not kind. Although Heizi didn't know these 2 people, but Emperor Yuangan and Maya Shenli knew each other. Are it not just us who are hired? Led by Flanda, Takiju Rigo, and Jinki's favorite rival, Shenli Maya saw Emperor Gakwan and his party on the opposite side. Gritting his teeth revealed a distorted color that was extremely unpleasant. The Emperor Yuangan, who possesses similar abilities, but is absolutely unable to surpass the existence, can be said to be among all LV5 superpowers. The one she hates most. Chapter 231 Mai Yi Shenli who was almost killed. Are you also entrusted? Shout. Although the strength is far better than Mai Yi Shenli, it does not mean that Emperor Yuangan has a good impression of the opponent. Just a few hours ago, as the commander of the organization, school, he received a secret mission from the top. Recover Yèyuè Makoto. In other words, recover the sacred objects in Makoto's body. As for what it is, Emperor Yuangan didn't know. Anyway, the explanation given above was, you will understand it naturally after you go. He is not a person who likes to struggle with the reasons, not to mention that he has always regarded the party Tongxing and Yezuki Mikoto ranked above him as a thorn in his eyes. After receiving this commission, it can be said that he agreed without hesitation, down. And lead the two strongest LV4 prison Sai Heimei and Yu Wang Wanhua to come. As a result, let's not say that I didn't expect Maya Shenli to also take this mission, and also saw such a wonderful scene. Two battles of Yuzuki Mikoto. Coincidentally, the props, led by Mai Yi Shen, is also an Enbu organization that accepts any illicit work as long as the reward is sufficient. But she herself also hates Mikoto Yezuki, more out of jealousy as a woman. But the above actually hired two LV5 superpowers to perform this task at the same time. It seems that the degree of importance is not trivial. The top of the building, Haitzi guarded Satin Tirko and Chuchen Shiri behind him, and confronted the school, led by Emperor Yuangan, and props, led by Makino Shenli. You guys, do you want to do something to your sister? While grinning, Haitzi pinched the iron nail tied to his leg between his fingers, as if the little wild cat had been blowing up. At this time, the two LV5s turned their attention to her. Mai Yi Shenli pursed his lips and sneered, and said coldly. To Kiwade's uniform, it is Mikoto's subordinate, Yezuki. Why should I tell you? Even if I tell you, what can you do with your ability? Don't underestimate the sunspot. It has been confirmed that the other party is indeed coming for his beloved sister. Haitzi no longer hesitated, and suddenly threw out the iron nail in his hand. Mai Yi Shenlishan's facial features appeared to be uniformly disdainful, and the slender jade fingers were slightly picked. A green halo emerged, turning into a barrier to block the nails. The members of props, behind them showed mocking colors, and seemed to have seen the scene of Shirai Kuroko being killed by Maya Shenli instantly. Advertisement, however, in less than a second, the contempt on everyone's faces turned into consternation. Because Shenli's atomic collapse ability in Maya, the weapon of the little girl Pingyue Hung, has not shown any signs of collapse. That open black lens bracket props close black lens bracket Jianqi, one of the members, loves Lu with a sharp eyebrow. She discovered that on the surface of the iron nail, a faint steam like gas was rising. Does using that increase the hardness of the weapon? It's somewhat similar to the nitrogen armor of LV4 powerful person. But isn't the double ponytail capable of the space system? A person should only have one ability. A fool who relies too much on his own abilities is the easiest to die early. This is what my father often says. Baijing Haitzi suddenly flashed behind Maya Shenli, and the iron nails rising from the steam pierced the back of the imperial sister. This girl is so fast. Even as the fourth place among LV5, Mai Yi Shenli's expression could not help but suddenly fuse. However, it hasn't waited how far the nails fly. Props, the silk banner favorite of the organization suddenly shot, and the back of the hand turned into a shield to block the iron nail thrown by Haitzi. Even with nitrogen armor as protection, the sharp pain coming from the back of her hand still couldn't help making her face slightly distorted. Caught. Flanda on the other side seized this opportunity and pushed Sunspot to the ground from behind. Although the ability is explosive, she also has good fighting strength. Puff. Haitzi, who was too late to move the space, was embarrassed and threw himself to the ground. Chuchen Shili and Zuo Tian Lizi exclaimed in exclamation. Student Baijing. Are you okay? Emperor Yuangan on the other side saw all this in his eyes and sneered and mocked. Although it's too far from me, it's still an LV5 anyway. You almost fell into the hands of LV4 kid. You're too embarrassed, right? The atom collapsed. -0 seeking flowers. 0 Mai Yi gritted his teeth with anger, but it was difficult to refute. The extremely distorted face turned to Haitzi, vowing to put this anger on this dead girl. Advertisement. The green electron beam rose again. Mai Yi Shenli was about to shoot Haitzi's forehead directly. Student Shirai. At this time, Chuchen Shili didn't care that he was just an LV1, and suddenly rushed towards the sunspot who was pressed tightly by Flanda. Rumble. At this moment, it seemed that the shockwave that was going to lift off this area caused the accuracy of the electron beam shot by Mai Yi to shift. Flew by almost wiping Haitzi's ear, and Chuchen Shili, who had just rushed out, took a step and fell to the ground embarrassedly. Mai Yi Shenli and the others turned around and looked. I saw that it was the cloned version of Mikoto Yezuki, the thunderbeast that would be summoned, poured wine on the original Mikoto of the seat. Sister. Haitzi, who was still pressed, yelled worriedly. Is the second dying? Mai Yi Shenli didn't care about the sunspot anymore and turned around. Look at the mushroom cloud rising up into the sky. An attack of that level, immune to death, super electromagnetic gun. As ranked below Mikoto and also seen the strength of the opponent, Emperor Yuangan narrowed his eyes to explain, but as the mushroom cloud gradually dispersed, he added another sentence. However, it seems that the psychological blow is not small. When the smoke gradually dispersed, the extraterrestrial individual and Mikoto looked at each other again. After being hit by the unicorn just now, Mikoto's Takiwadai school uniform was covered in dust, and there were a lot of holes. Why not hide? The outsiders looked at each other in disbelief. Then why didn't you attack my vitals head on? Mikoto asked rhetorically. Although her school uniform was damaged a lot, as long as she looked closely, the wound was not fatal at all. In addition, in the face of the attack just now, she did not take the slightest evasion or resistance. Obviously, there is only one answer: the extra special body was hit crooked, and... Chapter 232 Protection of Extraordinary Individuals. Why did you beat it crookedly? Makoto raised questions about the extra specialist for the second time. She can be 100% sure that the unicorn sent just now. The extra special individual did not attack according to his own vitals. In other words, while controlling the Qilin to fall, Makoto does not have any tendency to defend and dodge. At the last moment, the Fanwei individual was unconsciously beaten up. Shut up, shut up. The Fanwei individual would never admit to this. After retreating a few steps in a slight panic, he reunited with the Thunder Spear again in anger, and sternly reprimanded. Just now it was just that I hadn't been able to use power proficiently. This time, I will definitely be able to control you. However, after saying this sentence, the outside individual saw that Makoto hadn't moved. As if he had been tapped, he stood quietly on the spot. 3-3. Couldn't help shouting. Hey, what are you doing in a daze? Make a move. In response, Makoto replied with a sad smile, and said with a hoarse voice. Bring it on. The pupils of the individual outside the scene suddenly shrank. Makoto's sad voice came into his ears again. You're right, it's all my fault. If this makes you feel better, then you can do it. Makoto's words didn't make the extraterrestrial individual feel any pleasure. On the contrary, there was a resounding tearing sensation deep in my heart. However, in the next second, she gritted her teeth and expelled the pain from her heart. Now, what are you pretending to be? I'm going to kill you, absolutely. When the words fell, the Fanwei entities formed a dark purple electric light. In the eyes of ordinary people, the moment that can't even be degraded. The thunder gun in the hands of the extraneous entity is about to pierce Makoto's throat. And at the end, when the extraterrestrial individual and Makoto looked at each other at almost zero distance. At the same time, the other party's guilt and affectionate eyes reflected in her own eyes. The extraneous individual only felt the same tingling pain in his heart again as Gang-o. It's as uncomfortable as someone who is about to breathe in the water. At the same time, her attack shifted uncontrollably for a second time, avoiding Makoto's throat, and leaning against the side of her neck. Advertisement. And just at this moment, the roof of a building half a mile away. Emperor Yuangan and Mai Yi Shen Li rushed out together. Behind Emperor Yuangan appeared 6 wings that looked like angels in mythology. The moment when the giant wings with a diameter of more than 20 meters flapped, there was a storm that was sharper than a knife. Launch a large-scale attack on the Yèyuè sisters on the ground. While Mai Yi Shen Li was surrounded by green electric cannons again, launching a surprise attack in the form of rays. Just a few seconds ago, when the lightning gun of the extra specialist seemed to go through Makoto's neck. Their client, the high level behind the scenes of Academy City, sent a message. Attack Yazuki Makoto immediately. No need to care about the life of the cloned doll. The two LV5s originally regarded Makoto as an enemy. Naturally, you won't hesitate to start, and the move is the ultimate move. And because of the angle, the first thing the attack is about to hit is the extraneous individual. Careful. While Makoto exclaimed, his left hand held the shoulder of the Fanwei entity and protected her behind him. Raise your arm one with your right hand. A large amount of iron sand turned into a wall, blocking them in front of them. However, Makoto will not have time to come out of the shadow of grief just now. It is impossible to control the ability in a hasty. In addition, Emperor Yuangan and Maya Shenli attacked too suddenly. As a result, the wall of iron sand failed to exert its due power. After being attacked by the wind blade and the laser cannon. Although it barely resisted for half a second, it was still penetrated. The attack that was offset by most of the power hit Makoto and flew it away. Elder sister. When he saw Makoto being knocked into the air, the extraneous individual uttered these 2 words subconsciously without thinking through his brain. Puff. Makoto fell heavily to the ground. On the opposite side of the street on the verge of destruction, Emperor Yuangan and Shenli Maya landed one after another. Individuals outside the fan don't know what they think in their hearts. In other words, before the brain can think, the body has already acted first. In front of Makoto, who fell on the ground, advertisement. What do you want? A copy. Mai Yi Shenli glanced at the hair behind his head, his eyes were full of contempt. 0. Suddenly there was a burst of consent from the brain of the individual outside the fan, and almost fell over in a trance, and said inwardly. Yes, damn it, the side effect is actually at this time. It still stands tall with amazing willpower. The outside individual sternly expressed his expression, and the thunder light broke out again, hatefully said. Roll. Hey, something that can be made by the cultivation chamber is surprisingly big. Emperor Gakwan with his hands in Kabuto also appeared mocking. Tell you guys to go. Didn't you hear? From the pants Kabuto of the battlesuit, he took out 2 coins and flew into the air. Without waiting for them to fall, the small hand of Fanwei individual made a buckle action. Use thumb missiles for bursts. Super electromagnetic gun. 2 combo. Reproduced inferior products are far less powerful than genuine ones. Emperor Yuangan dismissed it, and the wings behind him turned into shields to protect him. The dark purple electromagnetic cannon hit it, and although it shot down a large number of wings, there was no sign of breaking through the defense. Although Mai Yi Shen Li was not as calm as Emperor Yuangan. But the extra special entity who had already had a physical problem couldn't help her with this attack. After quickly avoiding the attack sideways, the backhand harnessed the atomic collapse ability and fired a green laser, which directly penetrated the lower ventral waist of the Fanwai individual. The extraordinary entity even didn't have time to scream out in pain. A large amount of blood overflowed from the wound, and his pale knees fell on the ground with a puff. Spray, a cloned waist, it took me a little bit. Mai Yi Shenli fiercely scratched the bangs scattered in front of his eyebrows to the back of his head, gritted his teeth and walked towards Makoto behind. In her opinion, recovering Yèyuè Makoto is the same thing as recovering the objects in the opponent's body. However, just when Mai Yi Shenli walked through the extravagant individuals to the end, suddenly he felt something and hooked his boots, looked down. It was discovered that there was blood on the corner of the mouth of the Fanwai individual, and he raised his eyes and threatened. Go away. Yèyuè Makoto is my goal. No one else is allowed to shoot her. Chapter 233 The Power of the Gods is released. The Sword of the First 1,000 Years. A puppet that can be made with a culture chamber and protein. Don't look at me with such disgusting eyes. Shenli Maya, who had encountered Emperor Yuangan, who he hadn't defeated for a long time, was in a bad mood. Gang O was almost successfully attacked by LV4 by Sunspot. At this time, she was on the verge of a violent borderline. Mai Yi Shenli is such a character. Normally or in a downwind state, you can still maintain the graceful and calm style of the royal sister. However, once she is in adversity or desperation, she will fall into madness and violence. It's not impossible even to hit one's own people. Crazy woman. Emperor Yuangan cast aside Maya Shenli, whose expression became increasingly distorted. After a trace of contempt flashed under his eyes, he continued to walk towards Yèyuè Makoto. The task explained above is to recover something in the body of the super electromagnetic gun. But it's the same to just catch her back for business, right? After this guy disappeared, the only one standing in front of him was the only one left to pass. Just in case, let's take you away after you were completely incapacitated. As Emperor Yuangan spoke, the 6/10 wing feathers on his back made a piercing sound like a sharpening knife. In the blink of an eye, it was like a pear-blossom torrential rain, piercing Makoto's limbs on the ground like a flying knife. The other side, the blue light beam rising from Mai Yi Shenli's fingertips was clearly trying to shoot through the extraneous individual on the ground holding his ankle. Just when the sisters face the desperate situation of their neighbors, this is the occasion of 1,000 fishing. An azure light rose into the sky. The wings of Makoto were instantly changed direction and smashed into a child's powder, even nothingness. Before the brain was thinking, Emperor Yuangan's body felt the danger one step faster. Stir the wings and quickly retreat to high altitude. At the same moment, Mai Yi Shenli gave up the killing move against Fanwai individuals. Evacuate quickly. What it is, not to mention the people present, the entire Academy City has more than 2 million residents. They all noticed that it was sent from the 7th area. This road submerged into the sky and went straight to the holy light pillar of the universe. Advertisement. What new experiment is it in Academy City? Why, what's the matter? It makes me feel hard to breathe. Tens of miles away, Fang Tongxing, who was walking in a dark alley, also raised his head to look at the light beam that reached the universe. It is precisely because he is the apex of the Academy City ability person, at least the apex on the surface. Can feel this sense of oppression that shocks the soul more than others. At the scene, about 10 seconds passed. The beam of light gradually dissipated. A big sword with a height of nearly 2 meters and a golden body and blue light. Like the guardian of Yèyuè Makoto, eating stood in front of her. Not to mention that the two LV5s close to each other are the roofs of the Yuanfang building. As a layman, Zuotian Lei and Chuchun Shi Li can feel the sense of oppression from there. This is the reason why I feel strange in my body during this period of time. Makoto, lying on the ground, barely raised his head, looking tiredly at the Olympus Excalibur floating above him. That's the thing that the above confessed to the key recovery. I really didn't expect that the super electromagnetic gun still has this kind of stuff hidden in the body. With the help of 6 wings floating in the sky, Emperor Yuangan was squinting his eyes, and the corners of his mouth on both sides suddenly outlined evil angles, and suddenly raised his voice. Although I don't know what it is, it's not easy to let the boss entrust 2 LV5s to recycle things, right? At the same time as the words fell, Emperor Yuangan swooped down like an eagle. Listening to the tone of what he said just now, it was obvious that he did not intend to obediently transfer the target recovery to the senior officials of the Academy. Although he is one of the leaders of many Anbu organizations who follow the orders of the high level of the Academy City. But how much loyalty I have to the senior officials of the Academy City is another matter. Gang O couldn't help extinguishing his Weiyuan substance attack, and it was still the thing that had been reclaimed after repeated orders. Emperor Yuangan was not an idiot, so he couldn't see that there must be something special about this sword. And through monitoring, as the highest institution of the Academy City, Chaoan, one of the hawkish members of the General Council, passed monitoring to see exactly what happened before and after the incident. When witnessing the divine sword coming to the world, it was Yèyuè Makoto to resist the attack of Emperor Yuangan. He was so scared that he jumped up from the seat and exclaimed in astonishment and excitement. Sure enough, as expected, when Yèyuè Makoto encounters danger, the power of the holy relic will take the initiative to protect him. Chaoan immediately ordered his opponent, Contact, Yèyuè substance, and atom disintegration, there is nothing for them, and let our people reclaim the sacred objects. Advertisement, we have contacted just now, but missing substance, hung up the communication. One of the subordinates behind said bitterly. That be ****************. D. Do you want to snatch the holy artifact? The tide bank roared furiously. A hole, is it possible that the organs are exhausted, and they have to make wedding dresses for others? However, the next second, whether it is the tide bank peeping through the surveillance, or the scene of Mikoto, Mai Shenli and others, I immediately saw a picture that they will never forget. In the middle of a devastated street, Emperor Yuangan, who incited the pure white six wings to fall in front of the Olympus Excalibur, stretched out his hand to the hilt with a smile, and said triumphantly 317. Things that can make those old things covet so much, I'll take a look at what's so amazing. When the last word is said, Emperor Yuangan already held the hilt of the divine sword with his right hand. However, it was at this moment, Emperor Yuangan's expression changed drastically. The pure white six wings on the back fell into a powdery substance that was difficult to discern with the naked eye in an instant. What's wrong? Whether it is nearby Mikoto, Fanwai individual, Mai Shen Li, Haitsi in the distance, Chuchen as Li, Sakuriko, and members of props and school, or secretly, like the tide bank, people who spy through surveillance. The same thought came to mind. What is this? What is this? The wings behind him scattered into the last moment. Emperor Yuangan's entire face was distorted and not like a human. While screaming sharply, he wanted to loosen the hilt of the sword. But it seemed to be attracted by a magnet and couldn't get rid of it. In less than 2 seconds, the holy light was like a wild beast that swallowed its prey, enveloping the entire body of Emperor Yuangan. And in the harsh scream of the opponent, he was turned into a liquid state like fleshy flesh, sucked into the holy light in the center of the sword. Chapter 234. You were rejected by the sword. Where did he go? At the top of a building half a mile away, Yusai Heimei and Yuang Wanhua, a member of the school organization commanded by Emperor Yuangan, stared in astonishment. In the middle of the broken street below, the three LV5s who had originally faced each other, now only the fallen Yèyuè Mikoto and Maya Shenli are left. Their boss Yuangan Emperor Governor. In the miserable scream, he was swallowed by the indescribable light. Then it was never seen again. Has he been rejected by the sword? The hawkish member of the General Council who was secretly observing this scene through monitoring said in a low voice. Only one of the 7 LV5 superpowers in Academy City disappeared, or was swallowed. In the eyes of outsiders, this is definitely a big deal. But for people like Chowan who can control the highest power behind the Academy City, they did not place too much emphasis on the value of LV5. After all, whether it was the secret plan implemented by his chairman, or those monsters that happened in the War of the Gods Twilight, thousands of years ago, LV5 is as fragile as a child in front of them. Therefore, the lack of LV5 is nothing to them in their eyes. What's more important is that the sword actually has the ability to choose the master. This is trouble now. How to take it away? P.E. At this time, Mikoto, who fell to the ground on the scene, had recovered some strength and struggled to get up. Mei Mo looked at the divine sword that exudes the heavenly spirit pillar. For some reason, I always feel as if there is a voice calling myself. Mikoto doesn't even know what he thinks. In short, the body moved forward by himself, and his left hand covered the wound just hit by Mai Shenli and walked to the Olympus Excalibur. After staring at him for a moment, his right hand stretched out towards the hilt of the sword. She was about to hold this big sword that was taller than her own. Sister, Mikoto Senpei. He was bound to see this scene in the distance, and Shuchen Shiri, Satin Lizzie saw this scene, and the tragic picture of Emperor Yuangan just appeared in their minds. I was afraid that the scene just now reappeared on Mikoto, and everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Advertisement boom boom boom. Fortunately, the picture Haitsi imagined in their minds did not appear in the next second. The blue holy light envelops Mikoto's petite body. On the contrary, it seemed to cater to the master's servant, making Mikoto feel an unprecedented energy pouring into his body. In a more turbulent way, overflowing from the soul. Mikoto's eyes turned into ethereal blue in an instant. Those eyes seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. It feels completely different from LV5. Even without the slightest perception ability, Mai Shenli could feel that Yèyuè Mikoto's aura was different from the previous one. Could it be LV6, which is known as touching the realm of the gods with the body of a mortal? This thought subconsciously surfaced deep in his heart, but his face just showed horror. Mai Shenli closed his eyes again and shook his head severely, pushing this idea out of his mind. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That kind of thing doesn't exist. Be careful. Mai Yi, however, when Makino Shenli kept vetoing this idea in his heart, trying to expel the fear in his heart. Suddenly Flanda's shout came in his ear. Hearing this, Mai Shenli quickly opened his eyes. However, Mikoto, who had entered a completely new state, appeared in front of him with a sword that was even more exaggerated than his own height. At the same time, the body used instinctive reaction to quickly activate the atomic disintegration ability, and the green light source converged into an energy ball around the body. Puff. However, the energy of atom collapse has just condensed into a spherical shape. Mikoto flicked the Olympus Excalibur in his hand. As if slapped dead mosquitoes, those energy rackets were smashed into pieces in an instant. Nah, before Ma Yi Shen Li shouted in surprise. His eyes are no longer like human beings, they are exactly the same Makoto as Yèyuè Guāng back then. He grabbed the left hand of Ma Yi Shenli with his left hand. Immediately afterwards, in the eyes of Ma Yi Shenli, the giant sword that swallowed Emperor Yuangan. Suddenly, he waved and fell in the hands of Makoto Yezuki, and kept approaching his grasped left arm. No, advertisement the scream is not over yet. Has been replaced by screams blood splattered and the arm was cut off. Just like the Emperor Yuangan just now, he was engulfed by aura, and was immediately swallowed inside the sword body. Go and save my Yi. Flanda didn't care about suppressing Sunspot at this time, so she hurriedly got up and prepared to rush to the rescue with the other two members, Jachi Favorite and Takiju. What? Around the building, dozens of figures flashed out. It shocked the members of the Central Prestige Rishi, Satin Tirko, and the members of Props and School. Only Haitsi, who had been restrained by Flanda until now, showed a relieved smile and whispered to himself. Really, it's too slow to come, right? These flashed out, like reinforcements descending from the gods, all dressed in the hazel Takiwadai uniforms like Makoto and Kuroko. The leader is surprisingly the best post-marriage photon in Taichung Takiwa. Many Takiwadai girls rushed in. Even though the members of School and Props have already reacted. In front of the already strengthened Takiwadai's marriage Koko and others, it is also useless. Not to mention that they are not all combat elements. And what Yèyuè Guāng valued most in training the little girls like Tokobantai was the combat aspect. Too slow, wonderful Zhao. Seeing Flanda wanted to make a move. After the marriage, Photon suddenly waved the lady's folding fan in his hand. Like the iron nails of the previous sunspots, the surface of the folding fan emits steamy gas, raising both attack and defense to a level. The folding fan revolves in an arc in the air like a return of strength, hitting the three members of Props at once. Let them fall to the ground under the pain. On the other side, women such as Wan Nei Bao and Pao Fu Wan Bin. Although it was still LV3, it slammed these LV4s on the ground swiftly. Okay, so handsome. Regarding Takiwadai's star-eyed early spring decorations, is this the eldest lady of Takiwadai? Although Satin Takuko rejected Takiwadai, a noble school that only allowed high-level abilities to join. But at this moment they have to admit their excellence. And the envy hidden deep in my heart. Chapter 235 Still too soft-hearted. Puff. Yuang Wanhua, one of the members of the school organization led by Emperor Gakugen, was unceremoniously impounded on the ground by Fanfeng Junko, the deputy of the Bee-Eater. Squirt, even the Bee-Eaters are here. Covering the injured place, Shirai Kuroko, who finally got up from the ground, noticed Hobukazu Junko, Masako Kauchi, and others, and curled their lips in discomfort. I also knew in my heart that apart from the analysis of Bee-Eaters, who else had the ability to tune up this bunch of self-esteem guys? Wearing the special goggles that wraps his entire forehead, his lazy eyes flashed across his head, and he was about to use his ability to resist. A flash of light suddenly disappeared from his vision. That is a short-lived existence than an instant. A few seconds later, Yuang Wanhua noticed that her companion, Priscilla Jaime, was looking at herself with horrified eyes. Immediately afterwards, his eyes moved uncontrollably. Then with a heavy pop, he fell to the ground with his head sideways. At this time, Yuang Wanhua really realized that his head had been cut off just now. Because the speed was too fast, I didn't realize that I had been beheaded. 317 at the edge of the top floor of the building in front of the women such as Yusai Jaime, Flanda and others. I don't know when, a tall figure has already stood there. Fanfeng Runzi bowed his head in shame. No, I'm very sorry, Teacher Yi Yu. Don't be like this kind of woman again next time. Yèyuè Guāng has a calm tone, but still has a powerful deterrent that people dare not refute. Fanfeng Junko, a representative figure in the top 10 who was originally in the Takiwadai, behaved like a well-behaved cat in front of Yèyuè Guāng. It is even worse than facing the Bee-Eater. Today's course, you must not have a soft thought in the face of the enemy, you know? Yèyuè Guāng turned his back to the women, his teacher. Hundreds of Takiwadai female students, including Photon and Junko-fan, responded uniformly after the marriage. Then, who is that? Shirai-kun, finally recovered from the shadow of the beheading of Yuang Wanhua. In the early spring, Shiri showed very longing and curious eyes to Yèyuè Guāng, who was respectful to the Takiwadai collective eldest. Advertisement you can actually make so many young ladies obey, so handsome, so envious. Our Takiwadai's physical education teacher is my sister's father. Baijing Haitsi worked hard, obviously a little unhappy with Yèyuè Guāng coming so late, but in the end, he still did not forget to offer flattery and showed pervert smile. Of course, he is also Kuroko's most beloved father. Too lazy to deal with the pervert lily girl Haitsi, Yèyuè Guāng stood on the edge of the building, looking down, his eyes fixed on his baby girl. With the help of the Olympus Excalibur, is it considered as stepping into the realm of gods with one foot? At this time, Yèyuè Guāng noticed the woman whose left arm was cut off by Makoto with a sword. That is, Yèyuè Guāng's eyes were half empty. Fanfeng Runzi quickly stepped forward to explain to him. Teacher Yèyuè, that is, Atomic Collapse, Shenli Maya, who is ranked 4th among the 7 LV5s in the Academy City. Superpowers? But they will disappear from this world soon? Yèyuè Guāng shrugged slightly with a smirk, and when he told the topic that Mai Yi Shenli was about to die, he seemed to be talking about the trivial things like eating and drinking. As soon as this remark came out, the expressions of the props behind the organization Flanda, the favorite of the Silk Flag and others changed suddenly. However, they were detained by Wane Swanbao, Paofu Wanbin and other women. Choke. The battle below continues. Maya Shenli, who had broken his arm, endured the severe pain, and continued to fire laser cannons with the ability of atom collapse. However, Makoto, who stepped into the realm of the gods, just flicked the Excalibur in his hand and shattered those Baffa shots like mosquitoes. Makino Shenli, who was forced to retreat again and again, suddenly felt a sense of touch coming from behind. Panicked and turned his head to look behind him. It was discovered that it was the previous battle that caused the building to collapse and completely blocked the street behind him. There is no refund. Don't come over. When I saw Makoto holding the Olympus Excalibur, he was still approaching. The frightened Maya Shenli's face was completely distorted, panic from the soul, and even made her afraid to drive her abilities. The whole person collapsed to the ground, like a child who had been abused, curled up and shrank his body into a ball, and hugged his body tightly with the only right hand. Sister, advertisement Heizi's expression was extremely complicated. Mai Yi Shenli is a woman who, damn it, but she doesn't want to see her beloved sister become like this. Just as Makoto held up the Olympus Excalibur and was about to reduce the 7 LV5s of the Academy City by 1. Suddenly, the exquisite and delicate body was in a burst. The aura representing the divine will was scattered like shattered crystals, and the Olympus sword in his hand turned into aura and returned to the body. The whole person has also changed from the original state of stepping into the realm of gods with one foot, and has changed back to the normal appearance of daily life. Spray, this girl is still too soft-hearted. Immediately afterwards, the Takiwadai girls heard the complaints in Yèyuè Guāng's mouth. With a blink of an eye, everyone found that Yèyuè Guāng had disappeared. Where did he go? Zuo Tianlizhi turned his head left and right in confusion. Heizi raised his finger and pointed. Zuo Tianlizhi looked in the direction of Heizi's fingers. It was discovered that Yèyuè Guāng had teleported to the ground beside Makoto, holding his daughter in his arms with one hand. Is this too fast? Zuo Tianlizhi was in a mess. Are all Takiwadai guys monsters? Yèyuè Guāng pushed his elbow and carried the fainted baby girl behind him. Without looking at the Mai Yi Shenli behind him, he strolled to the Fanwai entity. He raised his head and looked at Yèyuè Guāng with 4 eyes. The Fanwai individual opened his mouth. In the end, he couldn't say a word, but there were obvious tears in his eyes. If the sisters quarreled, it would be too much. Yèyuè Guāng put his hands on the left and right respectively on the slender waist and the back of the body, and lifted her princess, with the corners of her mouth slightly curled up, but it seems that you were both the first offenders. The pupils of the individual outside the scene suddenly shrank. A few seconds later, the corners of his mouth also raised a slight arc of almost nothing. Leaning in front of Yèyuè Guāng Moon Hong, he fell asleep. Yèyuè Guāng, who was carrying his 2 daughters on his back, gave a wink at the Takiwadai girls above. After marriage, the women such as Photon cleverly controlled, props, and the members of the school organization. Escorted to return, including Mai Yi Shenli with a broken arm. Chapter 236 Takiwa University Exchange Blood. Damn it, the sacred object was not recovered, and 2 LV5s were lost. What should I do next? I saw Makoto and the extra species on the screen being taken away by Yèyuè Guāng. Although Mai Yi Shenli, who had a broken arm, was not dead, he was unloaded with one arm and was caught. He didn't know what he was going to use for that man. As a member of the highest authority in Academy City, Chowan couldn't help gritting his teeth, trying to crush his teeth. Although for the real rulers behind these Academy cities who knew the battle of the gods in the Yellow Twilight back then, it didn't put the superpowers in the most important position. Not to mention LV5, they don't pay much attention to LV6. After all, LV6 is only stepping into the realm of gods, not gods. But the loss of 2 LV5s in one go will definitely cause chaos in the school city. How to deal with this? Chowan was scratching his scalp frantically, as if he was about to swallow all the little white hair left in that layer. You don't need to worry about this, Senator. Suddenly the voice of a young woman came from behind, frightening Chowan and the bodyguards standing around him and quickly turned their heads to look. Beep. The key press echoed in my ears. The bodyguards who had originally planned to stand beside the tide bank with their guns froze in place like wooden men, and their eyes suddenly turned into star eyes. The bee-eater is holding the remote control in his right hand, and his left hand gently lifts the hair in front of his eyebrows. This way, you can relax temporarily, the bee-eater who turned around said indifferently with his back to the tide bank. Take away. Hearing the words, the subordinates on both sides who were the confidants of the tide bank set up the tide bank and walked out without hesitation. Psychological control, do you know what you are doing? Chowan shouted with a sullen face. Overseeing the council and LV5 superpowers, it is really not an existence of an order of magnitude. Regardless of how remarkable the existence of LV5 is in the eyes of the more than 2 million residents of Academy City. But with the exception of Yezuki Makoto, the ability development of the other 6 people all come from the calculations of Academy City. How to deal with their abilities, the school city seniors are clear. Advertisement, not to mention the bee-eater, who is ranked 5th, is the first one of Yifangtong. The General Council has methods to deal with him. I don't know, the bee-eater prayed without turning his head, stretched out his tone and smirked. People just want to complete the teacher's task. A few hours later, in the cathedral of Tokiwadai Junior High School. More than 200 female students who had just returned from the outside gathered together and kept talking in low voices. Some are discussing what happened in the 7th district just now, and some are discussing the follow-up impact of this matter. The reason why they will participate in this operation is entirely Yèyuè Guāng's order. However, after finishing the work, I also realized that the series of follow-up effects that this event will cause are definitely not small. Especially from the school member Yusai Jaime learned that missing matter actually died. The little girls in Tokiwadai knew that the matter was serious. After all, although they have at least the strength of LV3, after all, they are still a group of unmanned little girls. I think it's a big deal if LV5 is dead. Okay, although it's not a big deal in Yèyuè Guāng's eyes. Wan Ne Xuanbao asked in a low voice to Pao Fu Wan Bin and Photon after marriage. Teacher Yèyuè called us over to gather, what is the reason? Pao Fu Wan Bin shook his head, saying that he didn't know. Mani, I should praise us. After all, the atrocities of Weiyuan matter and atom disintegration have been prevented. It is only a matter of time before the Photon advances to the new LV5 after my marriage. Oh ha ha ha. After marriage, Photon is still so brainless, but this is also one of her advantages. Really, you're still an idiot as always, you. At this moment, Sunspot walked up from behind and spit out mercilessly. At this moment, Hyped C, 1/3 of his face and body were bandaged. Oh, Baijin Kuroko, I have told you many times, first-year students should respect the senior sister? Photon was unhappy after marriage. If he changed to normal, Hyped C would definitely answer the opponent a few words fiercely, but thinking that the other party had saved himself before, Hyped C made a rare concession. Shirai-san, how is Mikoto-senpai's injury? Yes, and her sister. Wane Swanbao and Pao Fu Wanbin hurriedly came out and changed the subject. Advertisement, it's okay. My father said that my sister and my sister will wake up in 2 days at most. Halfway through, Hyped C grumbled again with a full face. But my father is really too much, why not let Hyped C visit my sister and them? Not only Wane Swanbao and Pao Fu Wanbin, but even Photon couldn't help turning over by Kugan after their marriage. Isn't it obvious why you are not allowed to go, pervert lily female? Of course, in terms of their self-cultivation and relationship with Shirai Kuroko, it is impossible to say such a thing. The teacher is here. At this moment, Fan Fenbrunzi of the other bee-eater sect spoke. The girls in the cathedral turned to look at the podium, only to see Yèyuè Guāng strode up to the podium. Behind him, followed by a blonde with red eyes, like a lovely girl from a Western vampire novel. This girl, Shirai Kuroko, they all know, Yusai Jaime, one of the members of the school organization under Emperor Yuangan. In school uniform. However, what made Kuroko and the others puzzled was not only the presence of Yusai Jaime, but also because the other party was still wearing Tokiwadai's school uniform at this time. First of all, let me introduce you to the new second-year classmates. What is the prison? Yèyuè Guāng, who was standing on the podium, was just about to introduce, but after thinking about it for a long time, she didn't remember the name of this little girl. Prince Sai Jaime, the lovely girl, was full of resentment, but she did not dare to get angry. Once Emperor Yuangan died, the school organization was equivalent to destruction. And what she has is the ability to make LV5 feel a headache. In order to seek refuge, Priscilla Jaime had to find the strongest existence in her cognition. There is a name that is awkward. Anyway, starting from today, she is a member of the 2nd grade, and she will join the bee-eater class today. After Yèyuè Guāng said this, the Tokiwadai girls in the cathedral looked at each other for a moment, and 2 seconds later, there was a burst of applause. It gives enough face to Yèyuè Guāng. The second thing is that the chairman of our Tokiwadai is about to change. Yèyuè Guāng said again, and, Chapter 237 Gift to the Council. After Yèyuè Guāng announced this sentence, he quickly disappeared. And give the newly added LV4 grade ability to Tokiwadai to the management of the bee-eater, LV4, the rule in my heart, Yusai Jaime. The ability to freely adjust the mental distance is the ability that makes Maya Shenli, who is ranked number 4 in LV5, feels tricky. But the bee-eater, who is also a person with psychic ability, must be able to restrain her perfectly. But Yèyuè Guāng's announcement just now caused an uproar among the girls. It is said that the chairman retires from maternity leave, and a new chairman will take over this position tomorrow. When hearing this reason, even the bee-eaters could not help but twitch their eyes. Maternity leave. No matter how you make up your reasons, you don't need to be so perfunctory, right? With the wrinkled look of the director, is it like someone who can still get pregnant? However, what the teacher has decided will not change. The bee-eater prayed to move his head like a waterfall version of golden hair, and the star eyes glowed and glanced at the Hellkai Jaime beside him. Well, just like the teacher said, you just follow me temporarily, not allowed. My subordinates can use it, otherwise one. Speaking of the end, the bee-eater prayed with a long tone, and the green onions wearing white silk gloves pointed at the tip of the opponent's Chong nose, and the tone became more and more dangerous. Frightened prison Kai Jaime back and forth again and again. But who is the new chairman? The early bird firmly raised his jade finger, pointed his fingertip on his chin, and said curiously. Although I don't know why the chairman stepped down, but since I really did not say anything, I thought teacher Yèyuè would become the new chairman. At least someone he trusts. Bee-Eater murmured inwardly, unaware of the sourness flashing in the depths of his eyes. Wife, come, kiss me. On the second day, the hall of Shuiyuan City International Airport. Faced with Misaka Masuzu, who was wearing a capable leather jacket and jeans combination, but still couldn't hide her inner hot figure, Yèyuè Guāng opened her arms and shouted. However, outside the airport, the academy city that was supposed to explode for what happened yesterday. It was unexpectedly calm. Aside from announcing the disappearance of Huiyuan material, the third-ranked superpower, nothing else. Advertisement, whether it's the battle between Mikoto and two LV5s, or all the female students of Tokiwadai dispatched to wipe out the two Anbu organizations, school, and props. Nothing has been leaked. FKU, it's not serious. Flying over from Britain, Misaka Masuzu, who had just got off the plane, gave her a bad look. However, after hesitating for only half a second, Misaka Masuzu stood on her high heels and hugged him into the arms of the other party. I feel more passionate than Yèyuè Guāng, although there are still a few couples who have reunited for a long time and are in a sweet and greasy state. But they are not as exaggerated as Yèyuè Guāng and Misaka Mireu. Several couples even watched secretly nearby. I don't know if I want to learn some technology. How is Mikoto? If something happens to my daughter, I can't spare you. After almost suffocating, Misaka Masuzu let go of the drink, and then threatened Yèyuè Guāng's waist with a pinch. Mikoto is my baby, how could she be wronged? This time I prepared a surprise for you. Yèyuè Guāng hugged his wife's slender waist and walked out. Misaka Mireu didn't believe her nonsense at all. From falling in love to getting married to now, this scumbag did not know how many times he lied to himself. As soon as he walked out of the airport, Yèyuè Guāng saw the airship screen floating above the clear sky, announcing. LV5, Unyuan substance, was devastated yesterday in District 7 and has now been arrested. A new LV5 will be born in the near future, so the number of 7 LV5s in the Academy City remains unchanged. Seeing the news on the screen, Yèyuè Guāng couldn't help laughing. Good guy, co-authored all the farce that came out yesterday to the dead man, Emperor Yuangan. However, what Yèyuè Guāng cares more about is the new LV5, mentioned in the second half of the passage. Yèyuè Guāng only cares about this. What he should do afterwards, he had already anticipated in his heart. Next, did Photon obediently help me deliver things over? In Tokiwadai's special car, Yèyuè Guāng hugged Misaka Masuzu's fragrant body, and in the other's grotesque eyes, used wine to grow strawberries in some indescribable places of her. Advertisement, and in the driver's seat, it was Tokiwadai, or the secretary of the former chairman. Very sensible. Press a button on the steering wheel, and the intelligent button between the front and rear seats automatically falls down to separate the perspective of the front and rear seats. The female driver also cleverly put on a pair of headphones, because she knew that some indescribable voices would come from behind soon. Tokiwadai School, what are you doing here? As the guide of the windowless building, Kibi Danshi frowned when he saw the married Photon walking to the front door. Are you the person in charge here? After marriage, Photon is still the pride of the proud lady, using the immature voice like a child to pretend to be an adult. This lady is Tokiwadai's married Mitoko, come here in the name of teacher Yuzuki. Who cares? Go away as soon as there is nothing wrong, you are not allowed to enter here. Yubiao Danshi raised an eyebrow and scolded. This lady was asked by the teacher to send things here. As the voice of Photon fell after the marriage, the servant behind him would use a coffin to remove it from the truck, just like the ancient coffin used to place zombies in China's novels. The closed area is also covered with densely packed weird talisman paper. Please give this item 5.0 to the owner of this building. After marriage, Photon shook the folding fan in his hand. What kind of joke is this? GB Danshi raised her eyebrows, feeling that the other party was here to find fault. That's what the teacher said, it's your own business to accept it. After marriage, Photon smiled and said. But the teacher also said that if you don't accept it, you will be at your own risk. What's in it? GB Danshi looked at the coffin on the ground, and for some reason, a sense of horror came from his soul. I don't know, the teacher forbids me to open it. After leaving the last sentence, Photon turned his head and left after the marriage, then, the concubine will leave first.